What is it?
Wade Curley. I think it's Wade.
He's American, you know.
We're not, guys.
Canadian.
Here we go, guys. All right. Excellent. And I'm going to assume for now that everyone there can hear us, Mary Ellen.
Let's ask if they can hear us.
We'll say, Wade, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up.
Cindy can.
Cindy gives me a thumbs up. Wade, can you hear me? All right, there's a thumbs up. Okay, excellent. All right, let's get started here. So, welcome to the regular business meeting of December 6, 2021 for the Town of Turner Valley Council. We have a very hefty agenda in front of us this evening. We have one addition to the agenda. So we were called to order at 6:38, and I apologize for being a little bit late. Because of the size of this agenda, we had a few hiccups we had to just hammer out before we got moving. So the addition to the agenda is 2A, and that is to reschedule the regular meeting from December 20th, and we're going to bump that ahead to December 15th. Okay, so that's 2A. So can I get an approval of the agenda with the addition, please? And Councillor Rob gives me that motion. And I'm looking, so Cindy, I can see you on screen and it is recording, so you can still use your hand up signal when I call for the vote. You could also do it digitally as well if you so choose. Either one will work for me, I can see it clearly on the screen. So all in favor of the agenda approval? And that is carried, thank you. Confidential 3.1, closed session. We did not have a closed item
We
today.
didn't approve the agenda yet.
That was the approval of the agenda right there. As amended.
Mr. Mayor, was your
You
addition
added
to
something to the
agenda?
agenda, we didn't approve it.
Thank you. 2A,
I thought
you
we
were the
approved the
deputy.
agenda.
I thought
as- I thought we approved the agenda as
as amended.
Yes,
I thought we approved it, so
no,
Yes, Councillor Rob put that motion on the floor.
I put the motion on about the
Okay.
amendment to have the regular council meeting until the
so you're
15th.
asleep again.
Maybe there is
Could've
two.
been.
Maybe there is two meeting motions. I don't know.
No,
Just one.
I definitely read it out and you said I'm good with
As
it.
amended, yeah.
As amended, to
Yeah.
amend it to mean that we have our council meeting on the 15th.
Separate
Then I
motion,
stand
separate
corrected.
motion.
Separate motion you need?
We're gonna go with a
Oh,
separate
John.
motion entertained by Councillor Waring
There you go.
to reschedule that.
No,
Go
you
ahead.
got the rescheduled meeting already. Now
No.
we're gonna approve the agenda, correct?
No,
Lisa.
you've
We've
approved the
as
agenda
amended.
as amended, you added 2A, now you are on 2A to
2A.
reschedule your December meeting.
Councillor Waring? 2A,
Yes,
December 15th
yes,
from the December 20th?
exactly.
Can you give me that motion?
I will.
Excellent. Councillor Waring gives us a motion to reschedule the regular meeting from December 20th and move it to December 15th at 6:30 p.m.
Subject to a closed session.
Anybody good?
Yep.
Speak? All in favor? There we go. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who just had to listen to our quick ramble. That was pretty good. Okay, moving on now. 3.1, closed session. We did not have one today. Number 4.1, adoption of regular council minutes from November 15th. Could I get a motion to that effect? Councillor Gordon? Any errors, omissions, council? Everyone's good, clean? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. 4.2, can I get a motion for the Finance Advisory Committee meeting of November 24th? Councillor Martin? Any questions, concerns, errors, omissions for that budget item?
Counselor, if I might, Counselor Rob, did you send me an email saying you weren't present at that meeting?
Not for those, not
The next two.
the next two.
All right, seeing none, all in favor? And that is adopted, thank you. 4.3, Finance Advisory Committee meeting minutes for November 25th. Councillor Rob, you had a small admission?
I'll give you the motion to accept the minutes as amended, because I was not in attendance at that meeting.
So just be noted that Councillor Rob was not in attendance.
Regrets.
Seeing nothing further, all in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And 4.4, Governance and Priorities Advisory Committee meeting minutes for November 25th, 2021, and that will have the same addition that we had no Councillor Rob at that, and I have Councillor Waring giving us that motion.
As amended.
as amended. Any other errors, omissions?
Having problems getting on?
Thank you for reading them all, and all in favor? And that is adopted, thank you.
Okay, yeah, let me just see here.
Question period, 5.1. Question period is a section, oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, are you trying to talk?
We can't hear her, she needs to call in.
We're just gonna wait and see if we can get Councillor Hall.
I
They
maybe.
can't see us,
I'm
can't see
sorry,
the
but I
pointed
don't
of
see you
years.
in the waiting room at all. Yeah, I don't see you there.
Cindy, we can't hear you.
Just a moment.
How come we can't hear them?
Just a second.
Which computer are they coming through?
Just bear with
Can
us,
you
those at
actually
the
go
Zoom
back
call
out and
for
then
1
come
second,
back in?
please.
And then I can see if you were there.
Counselor Holiday, if you're trying to talk to us, we can't hear you.
Yep, she's just texting me now.
I'm sorry, what was
Okay,
that?
she's
Have
talking to Mary Ellen right now.
Yeah, I do. Just one more second. Hold on just a moment. Sorry, you guys. This is Greg Ashmore, and he's actually supposed to be participating in this meeting, and he actually cannot get in. So I'm just going to resend this to him and then come back in. You can go ahead and ask her to talk now. She might be able to speak. Cindy. Cindy, can you hear us? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Now you can hear her. We
Now
can
we
hear
have
you
you.
now. Sorry about that.
Okay, all I could hear was you,
Yeah.
so I wasn't hearing the paper.
Okay,
Sorry.
does that go for everyone else who's on the Zoom? Wade, could you hear us talking? I can't see Wade right now.
Tell me for when we can hear him now.
Okay, excellent, thank
And
you.
we can hear you now too, so.
Okay, perfect.
Greg, yeah, I still can't see you, to be invited into the meeting.
we're just
Can
gonna
you
take a
click on
second.
there again? Just go out, just close out and then join the meeting again?
World of COVID.
I said Corrine. Nothing.
Yep.
Hmm. Okay, okay.
Would you
By
read her?
email, okay, Greg, what's your email and I will invite you again. T.
Johnson Bill.
Okay,
We're just gonna
there you
take a
are.
little recess while we wait for the technical to get
Yeah, we
sorted.
wanna make sure everyone can hear and we can hear them.
So I've invited you, if you just click on that again to join the meeting and make sure that the meeting number is
Thank you, no.
Linda Nelson says thank you for all you do.
177 556
You can't dig yourself out, you can't dig yourself out.
742. Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you, Gary.
Up to you, John.
Yes, please.
A good,
You make them?
Linda Nelson.
Oh.
She dropped it off at the house. She said, if you're gonna see Gary, cause he's in Saskatchewan, she says, give this
I
one.
saw her there, so don't lie.
There you go.
She dropped
She give
something
you
off
the
her
card?
house too. She might have dropped the same things off on her.
Yeah, no, she dropped off the car.
Okay, so maybe try, maybe you're on the, did you launch the meeting? Like, do you have, Telus business meeting?
Poland.
Okay, let's see if
Have you started flooding yet, Barry?
it's not.
It is too many hours.
Cindy's missing, and I'm missing. I'm like, there's someone missing. Okay,
Are we live?
Back to the
if you
meeting.
wanted to turn on that camera, they can see.
funny. He said he's gonna go get some popcorn.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny.
Okay, let's start the video with,
There
there
we
we
go.
go. There's
Okay.
Barry.
Perfect. Excellent.
Hold on a sec here.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're just gonna get the live recording going here,
You're on.
and we're on. So, hello everyone at home. Hello everyone on computer land. I've moved down here to the center area next to Mary Ellen so that you guys can hear me clearly, because it's quite muffled from chamber's distance. You're about 12, 15 feet away from councillors, so hopefully this makes it a little more easy to hear. And obviously, this is a little bit different for public hearings, but we're gonna do our best. So patience, we just had our first trial and tribulation through technological difficulties, and we hope that we have no more. That being said, let's move on. So question period, 5.1. Question period is a section of council that's 15 minutes long for the public to ask questions of council or administration for clarity or just general interest. Mr. Patience, have we received any inquiries via email, phone calls, anything?
No.
Having received none, we will move on in the agenda to 6.1, public hearing number 21-1119, which is to remove the municipal reserve designation from the westerly portion of lot 19 MR Plan 9010616. So this is the portion now we're gonna get. I have to do quite a bit of reading, and we're gonna follow a very strict dialogue of order of people that speak for and against and so on. So just bear with me as I read through the requirements as per the MGA. So I, Barry Crane, hereby declare the public hearing for Bylaw 21-1119 open at 6:59. All right. This public hearing is held pursuant to Section 230 of the Municipal Government Act to hear representation from the public on proposed bylaw number 21-1119 to remove the municipal reserve designation from the lands described as the westerly portion of lot 19 MR Plan 9010616, being that proposed subdivided lot 1 block 3 containing 2.02 hectares or 5.0 acres more or less. Introductions. So I am Mayor Barry Crane for the town of Turner Valley, and I am the chairperson for tonight's hearing. Council, we will please have you introduce yourself, starting from Councillor Rab. If you could speak only if you're asked, and very clearly and hopefully very loud so that the computer can pick you up. So Rab, we'll start with you and then we'll move right down the line.
Hi, Gary Robb, Councillor, Turner Valley.
Hazel Martin, Councillor, Turner Valley.
Jonathan Gordon, Councillor, Turner Valley.
Curtis Dixon, Councillor, Turner Valley.
John Waring, Councillor, Town of Turner Valley.
Just wanted to let them see that they're in the room as best as we can anyway. All right, thank you very much. Administration, starting with Lisa for Legislative Services, would you please introduce yourself, and then we'll move down the line again,
Okay.
finishing with Mary Ellen, who's working the computer.
Mayor Crane, just one point of order. If you want to let Councillor Holliday introduce herself.
Oh, Councillor Holiday, in virtual land, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Crane. I'm Councillor Cindy Holiday, and I'm stuck at home because we have COVID in the house. So
Deputy
we're
Mayor.
not here.
Deputy Mayor.
But I'm
Thank-
happy to be here so I can speak up when you guys have terrible sound. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right. Okay, back to administration. Lisa, right here. It's okay. We're just gonna.
Okay.
Everybody gets in
Lisa
there.
Brown, Legislative Services Manager.
I'm Sean Patience, Chief Administrative Officer.
Nice and loud.
Richard Beltran, Town Turner Valley Project Management.
Mary Ellen Bag, Administrative Assistant. And we have Corinne.
And then at home on Zoom land, we have Corinne, it's our finance officer, down in the corner.
Good evening, everybody.
Can the volume
Excellent.
go up
Thank
on
you.
that? So-
And then we have Craig. Craig Beaton.
Is Craig on here too?
Yep.
Craig, Manager of Public Works.
Hello, Craig, Town of Turner Valley Public.
Is there any way you can turn that volume up?
I have
Yeah,
this
we will
file.
try right now. We're just gonna try and turn the volume up on the computer so that council and chambers can hear you.
100%, so
Alright,
that's all I got.
excellent. Alright. Continuing on. All discussions by council members, administration, and speakers shall be directed to myself as the chairperson. During the public hearing, I ask that you respect the views of everyone attending and allow each person their time to speak without interruption. Each person who is registered to speak will be given up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. When it is your turn to speak, I will call your name and ask that you indicate if you are speaking on your own behalf, on behalf of another person, a group of persons, or an organization. When you are finished speaking, council may wish to ask you questions. All conduct at this hearing will be carried out in an orderly fashion in accordance with normal parliamentary procedures. Confirmation. Mr. Patience, can you confirm that this public hearing has been advertised and notice given in accordance with the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, sir?
Mr. Mayor, I can validate that this public hearing has been advertised according to the MGA and our advertising bylaw requirements. However, I do need to point out we had a minor technical issue with the posting on the site. As a result of that, I will ask at the end of this public hearing for a continuance of this public hearing on the 15th of December at the next regular council meeting.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So, if everyone heard that clearly, can I get some indication with a thumbs up? Wade, did you hear that clearly? Excellent. Alright, we're gonna assume if Wade can hear it, everyone can hear it. How's that sound? No, there you go. Okay. The staff report. Mr. Patience, can you please present your staff report and explain to those in attendance the purpose of this proposed bylaw?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 21119's purpose is to remove the municipal reserve designation from the westerly portion of Lot 19 MR, Plan 9010616, being the proposed subdivided Lot 1, Block 3, containing 2.02 hectares, or approximately 5 acres more or less, pursuant to Section 675 of the Municipal Government Act. I will also suggest this process began much earlier this year when council was approached by a potential land purchaser. Obviously, we have policies in place to deal with land. On the 19th of July, council reviewed the appraisal on the property, set the minimum reserve price on this property at $235,000, and passed a motion to declare this property surplus to municipal needs. A bid was later advertised, meeting our land sale requirements for open bids on the 14th of September. Sorry, now I've lost my date here somewhere. Got it. At a special meeting on the 15th of October, council had reviewed the only bid that was submitted, and we had spent the summer months working with the proponent to come up with a conditional sales agreement that was acceptable to both the council and the potential purchaser. As part of that conditional sales agreement that was approved on October 15th, we as the municipality and the owner of the property were required to do two things. The first was to remove the municipal reserve designation to allow the property to be sold. Secondly, we are required to subdivide the property. So the first step in this process is the removal of the municipal reserve designation, which is what bylaw 21119 represents. as suggested, it has been advertised. This is the public hearing in regards to that bylaw to allow the public participation and any comments from anybody who feels they're an affected party.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to the written submission portion. So I will now ask Mr. Patience, has the town received any written submissions? And if so, please acknowledge the name clearly and whether they are in favor or opposed to this bylaw for the public record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we've received 8 written submissions. The first is from Ruby Ann Fortier, 626 Calkins. That's it.
That's right.
Calkins. In a letter, opposed. The second was from Charlotte Lammerhart and Jason Baxter, 822 Calkins, via email, opposed. Third was from Chris Lesak, 708 Calkins, letter and email, opposed. Another from Chris Lesak, 708 Calkins, letter, email, opposed. Wade Curley from 107 Calkins, also provided an information package and a letter with 30 signatures, opposed to the removal of the municipal reserve designation. We received an email from Gary Ashmore of 1047 Calkins Place, opposed. An email from Barb Hasenveld from 844 Calkins via email, opposed. And lastly, email and letter from Ian and Joan McLean of 1003 Calkins, also opposed.
Okay, thank you. At this point in the hearing, I will call upon each person registered to speak to the proposed bylaw. Please note that each party wishing to speak will have only one opportunity to do so. So council members may ask presenters questions for the purpose of clarifying the speaker's comments, but council will not debate this matter during the hearing. The decision regarding whether to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with under section 8.1 of the agenda or at a subsequent meeting if deemed necessary. In this case, we're going to have a continuance of the public hearing to December 15th, so that is when the debate by council will be had after it's closed at that point. So tonight is all about the public hearing for you individuals registered to speak and to the people who are just notified as per Mr. Patience's notification. So, moving on, the applicant presentations. At this point in the public hearing, since the town is the applicant, the staff report presented by Mr. Patience is considered the applicant's presentation. So I'll now call for others to speak in support. At this time, is anyone registered to speak in support of the proposed bylaw? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Now, we only have 4 individuals logged. And I have my little sheet with your names, but it's
Right here.
Wade. Yeah, where are we? There we go. There we go. I have Wade Curley, Gary Ashmore, Chris Lesak, and Charlotte Hammerhart. Are either of you in favor of the proposed bylaw? If so, I'll ask you to turn on your speaker and your camera.
Can I unmute them all?
They can unmute themselves too.
All right. Seeing none and hearing none, I will call for the others to speak in opposition to the proposed bylaw. So at this time, is there anyone registered to speak in opposition of the proposed bylaw? Please state your name and address. So in this case, I will simply ask, Mr. Wade Curley, are you opposed to this bylaw? And if so, I'm going to give you the floor for your first 5 minutes, and then I will move down the list.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we're
we
just
can.
going to have some volume up here in the chambers so that we can hear you. So if you could just state your name and address clearly for me, and then we'll see how we're doing.
Okay, I'm Wade Curley at 107 Walton Way, Southeast, Burns Valley, Alberta.
I don't do it.
All right. I just turned up the speaker for you, Wade. All right, we will start your clock whenever you begin your presentation in opposition.
All right. Mr. Mayor and Council, I am presenting on behalf of myself in conjunction with the majority of the residents of Calkins Place. My presentation is basically a summary of the report that I delivered to you last week. The title of my presentation is Trust to Keep Municipal Reserve as Is for Bylaw 21-1119. And I subtitle my presentation, When Dreams Collide. Can small towns survive when thrive? Is there ever a proper town to encroach on a neighborhood? Turner Valley has been a small town for over 100 years. Previous to the early 1900s, I believe it was mainly a small farm and ranching community. And then, along with the First World War, came the energy boom, coal and oil. We, my wife and I, raised 3 kids and several dogs in Calgary, supported by the oil industry. And for the 32 years we resided in Calgary, and the urge to live on a small acreage up west of the city never left me. Our net worth could never seem to match my dreams until November of 2010, when on a side trip back to Calgary, we discovered a small acreage in a small wooded area near a beautiful river. Sorry. With gorgeous river valley and mountain vistas, where wildlife abounds. Within 10 minutes of our discovery, a cell phone call to the realtor secured my dream, being our present 1-acre home. Oh, sorry. And as I truly believe many, possibly most residents of Turner Valley, especially on Calkins Place, have a similar story. My apology for making this so personal, but I want to make it known that the town of Turner Valley knows well many of my concerns from my past letters on respecting our community. Incidentally, these 2 letters, October 20, 2021 and March 5, 2014, were written before I knew we had any recourse at resisting encroaching industry through Bylaw 21-1119. I tell you this to explain to you that dreams can still come true. And now, fast forward to the day. I'm still living my dream at the same location, and I believe someone else's dream, Mr. Jochen Fair, is encroaching on mine. I truly want his dream to come true in Turner Valley, but in its respectful location, not on the municipal reserve land across the road from my home. I also believe this town has had a long-term vision of blending neighborhoods to commercial industry with green spaces and thriving. This is also my vision. Our new neighborhood put in this unacceptable position. Why us? I still love the old Westerly refinery, as we called it when I occasionally worked there. And I love to see it in the distance from our home, as it is a lasting symbol of Turner Valley's proud beginnings, and it is in its respective zone. The problem with the energy industry is that there is often pollution with pipelines. Progress has advanced improvement on a lot of these issues, but history has left its mark, and it's up to us to right the wrong. As you can see, this is a double-edged sword. We need industry in its properly planned place, and those places are presently zoned accordingly, but may need local, provincial, and federal help to heal them from present and future development. And further, we need to keep our neighborhoods and municipal reserves as properly planned to keep our communities on the path of unity, and we will be further blessed. Respectfully, Wade Curley, and I want to acknowledge and thank all that work at the town of Turner Valley that keep our town afloat and safe, especially during these times. And I especially want to thank the residents of Hawkins Place for their overwhelming kind support and leadership through this process, no matter the outcome. Sorry. I'll be hopefully.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Wade Curley?
Nope.
Seeing none, thank you again, Mr. Curley. Appreciate your heartfelt. It's good to see.
You're most welcome.
Mr. Gary Ashmore, if you are online, we are going to have you speak next. There you are. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Just going to have you state your name and your address nice
Gary, you're
and clear.
muted again. He can't hear you.
Hello?
Sorry, there we go. Just going to have you, Gary, state your name and address nice and clear, and we should be able to just continue right from there.
Yeah, it's Mayor Crane, Council. My name is Gary Ashmore. My wife Rachel and I are residents of the town of Turner Valley at 1047 Colton Split, So Beach. My purpose tonight is to voice my and my community's opposition to the removal of the MR designation. Bylaw 21-119 to accommodate a conditional sale for is nothing short of unbelievable, and I consider completely inappropriate. 20 years ago, I saw a sign for sale for a property in Colton. I turned off Main Street onto Colton Place and proceeded down to drive into Colton. I remember how I was blown away by what I saw as I drove along Colton Place. This obscure part of Turner Valley was an oasis from the rest of the world. We looked at what turned out to be Charlotte and Jason's house now, but didn't put an offer in at the time. 10 years later, Cliff Brown's house came up for sale, and the rest is history. Rachel and I are still in awe of this place we call home. Isn't that why we all live in Turner Valley? It references the municipal reserve redesignation dealt with in the MGA of Division 9 as per use and disposal of reserve land with Article 6712, which takes the following: municipal reserve, school reserve, and or municipal and school reserves may be used by a municipality or school board or by them jointly only for the following: A, a public park; B, a public recreation area; C, a school board purpose; and D, to separate areas of land that are used for different purposes. Accordingly, 6712D speaks directly to the reason for the land being designated MR, where no other land classification would provide that separation. These types of land use designations are strategically placed to provide buffers between industrial and residential land, and to provide common spaces for the public to enjoy. Alberta Land Title Survey Procedure Manual SUR-10 F1 states, while land is designated as a reserve, it may not be sold, leased, or otherwise disposed of. Why was the cart put ahead of the horse by offering this land for sale before the MR designation was removed? Land that is deemed surplus is not surplus under the MR designation. Until the MR designation is removed, thus it shouldn't have qualified to be sold. It seems to me that there has been a rush to expedite the sale for this as to accommodate Bear Brewery's expansion ambitions without any consideration for or direct consultation with the immediate residents. We do need industry like rare earth for obvious reasons. How will that happen if you haven't planned for it? Reviewing the current MGP might be a place to start, not by redesignating present precious MR lands. MR lands are the sacred cow of the land use process and have to be protected at all costs. If this land is redesignated, where in Turner Valley are we going to replace 5 acres with a $235,000 purchase price? Is this a Hail Mary attempt to facilitate an existing business, but at what cost? It seems to me that there is some sort of urgency by the fact that second and third reading are on the agenda tonight, and I understand that that's not going to happen. Is this time enough to reflect on the issue raised here tonight? The Curleys and Cusick are directly affected by the removal of the MR designation. Living across what they believe to be a national park forever because of the MR designation, they are more than disappointed with this proposed change. I am incensed by the lack of transparency of this process and the lack of consideration for the residents of Falcon Place. We actually need more useful park space since the Toboggan Hill and the community garden have been constructed. Business development needs to stay in the allocated areas as per the NDP. We need to maintain these buffers between land use sites so that each can exist in harmony. The process needs to be to respect that people have the right to expect continuity in their lives, and changing the MR designation goes against that expectation. Deeming this land surplus without anything to become conservation, perhaps according to the rules, but not expected to be from a moral perspective for a town our size. We don't need to go back to nature to achieve this, but stay with the nature we already have. I'm going to shake being able to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashmore. Appreciate all the time you put into this presentation and the clarity with which you spoke. Any questions for Mr. Ashmore?
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just maybe give Lisa 2 seconds to see if we can get the
Yeah, I will.
rumble
Yeah, you
down.
can't, I can't hear that and that.
No, I know, that's what.
Again, thank you, Mr. Ashmore. We have that noted. We're just gonna wait 2 minutes while we take care of some audio troubles here in the room, and then we're gonna move on to Miss Charlotte Lammerhurt. So just give us a minute, and then I'm gonna call you on, Charlotte. Okay, so I'll just mute for the time being, and I'll call you in just a second. Yeah. What? So we speak and they can only hear us through that speaker?
Well, that's how they
Tell you
hear.
what, we need better speakers.
This is ridiculous, yeah.
Well, usually you place your microphone and then it actually goes.
And it goes to those
to
speakers.
Hey, Sean, button on the right should be the on.
You know,
You wanna turn it off.
Button on the right should be.
Harry, can you not aim that microphone at the computer?
We don't have it turned on because we're not sure, we haven't.
It'll throw reverb
This
again
one should turn it off.
from different angles.
Turn it right off, let us go cold.
It is on.
A set of speakers on that. We don't have a set of speakers in the office somewhere we can plug in?
That's what I was asking, and if we don't have, we'll have some for the next meeting, cause that was all this, right?
Yeah.
I have one in my suitcase 2 miles away.
It's the,
Lots of home
it's the Epson speakers that we're using, so it's through the
Ah.
projector.
You and Warren can come sit over here,
I can hear.
right?
You
I can hear.
Yeah, I'm fine too, I
Okay.
can hear.
All right?
I can hear it just barely.
Oh, well.
Yeah, so if you wanna come down here,
You're more than welcome.
you and Warren can come down here. Jonathan, you're good?
I'm good.
Yeah, you're good.
I might do that.
Yeah, cause that is really good. Noisy, right? So just slide in there.
Mariella, do you not use that mic?
No, it's not turned on, the mic's not turned on, that's the problem.
Warren, you wanna sit here at the end right here?
I'll pretend I'm listening.
Crane, I got the mic on. Just tap it.
You'll have to tap the mayor's mic.
Are we doing it that way? Oh, it had the red.
So Rob, here's my.
No,
I don't think
they're not
they're
even
plugged
on.
in down here. I don't think they're plugged plug
You
in.
know what?
Jeff.
Hey,
No,
we're
no,
off.
that's
This
good. We're
is
good.
off.
We're good.
Just let her
Okay.
rip.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Just ask him to.
How's your day going?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Charlotte, I'm going to ask that you speak as loud as you can from your home so that we can really get the speakers to pop out here. I've moved Councillor Gordon and Councillor Waring into the head table here
Dixon, you mean?
to give it a little bit more punch. What's that?
Councilor Dixon, not
What they-
Councilor Gordon.
Oh, great! I got another new one.
What about
Okay,
Councillor
so
Hamilton? She's
there you go. Now we got a new one. So, Miss Lammerhurt, you're up. So if you can just state your name and your address, nice and clear, and then the floor is yours.
Hi there, can you hear me okay, or would you like me to speak louder?
She's great.
Perfect.
perfect.
And chairperson meeting you again, the Mary Ellen icon, perfect. Hi, my name is Charlotte Lammerhurt. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband Jason Baxter. We have owned our home at 822 Calkins Place for over 15 years. I'm speaking here today because we strongly oppose rezoning of the 5 acres of the land between our road, Calkins Place, and Tecumseh Road. I would like town council to understand that this is a residential neighborhood. How does it make any sense that the appropriate rezoning of this land in a residential neighborhood be changed to industrial? This rezoning is in direct contradiction with multiple objectives of the town of Turner Valley Municipal Development Plan based on the following, and I have, if you need me to send these to you, I can, but these are quotes from the MPP. According to page 20 of the Turner Valley Municipal Development Plan, the indicated area where this rezoning is to occur is identified as, quote, sensitive river valley area. I asked town council, is this appropriate to rezone a sensitive river valley area as an industrial lot? Page 21 of the MDP, or pardon me, MDP states that one of the town of Turner Valley's objectives is to, quote, protect residential neighborhoods by providing adequate separation from adjacent incompatible land uses. By allowing this rezoning, there will be no adequate separation between the residential neighborhood of Calkins Place and industrial business. And again, this brewer, you know this for the brewery, this will be directly in front of Wade Curley's home. Page 21 of the MPP states that one of the town of Turner Valley's objectives is to, quote, pardon me, I apologize. I would like town council to refer to now page 23 of the MDP, figure 4, which is entitled Future Land Use Concept. This map indicates future development of the town of Turner Valley. This map indicates the plan for future residential, commercial, industrial, and school lands development. The area in question there is to remain a river valley, and there is no indication whatsoever that the land in question should be rezoned as industrial. You can clearly see this on the map. I'd like town council to refer to page 25 of the MDP. Objective 8.3.7 states that, quote, future commercial and industrial development shall occur in accordance with figure 4 future land use concept. Again, I'd like to reiterate to town council that the land in question is not in accordance with this map, and this question of rezoning is in direct contradiction to this. I'm very concerned that town council has blatantly disregarded multiple objectives of the MDP by bringing this rezoning issue to public hearing today. According to the MDP itself on page 9, and I quote, the municipal development plan is the primary planning policy document for use at the municipal level. It is intended as a framework and guide for the ongoing development of the town of Turner Valley, ensuring that future growth occurs in an orderly and cost-efficient manner so that a high quality of life can be maintained for its residents. As I have been informed, the town of Turner Valley does not have any existing light industrial land. To me, this is an egregious failure of planning, foresight, and economic development vision. The residents of Calkins Place should not have to take on the burden of the failure to plan for one full business. This rezoning, again, I want to reiterate, is in direct conflict with multiple objectives of the MDP. Based on the analysis of the MDP, I'd like to know, I do have some questions, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask you so that we answer tonight, but I would actually like to know what steps and what documents that were used to determine, that were used to determine how this land would be appropriate to rezone. Sean Patient stated earlier today that on July 19th, that this land was determined to be surplus and that, July 19th, this land was determined to be surplus. Again, I would like to know what steps were used to determine that this was surplus land. And as well as I'm just curious to know, since it was designated as an environmentally sensitive area, I'm wondering also is what steps were used to determine that this was environmentally sensitive land. Again, my analysis is based on using the existing documents provided by the town of Turner Valley. So it leaves me to question why this rezoning has taken place, given that there's nothing in our town documents that show that this would be an appropriate rezoning. Again, we are proud residents of Calkins Place. We have loved living in Turner Valley. We are raising our son here as well. And I want to reiterate that I do not think in any way that this is an appropriate rezoning. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte, for that well thought out and detailed presentation. We will not be answering questions tonight because that would be in a form of debate. So that will take place after December 15th's conclusion of the open house. Then council will debate all the pros and cons of the presentations. The public forum will then close. So that's when that takes place. However, we can have an email that details some of what you asked from the administrative point of view to give you some timelines that might connect some of those dots for you. Quick follow-up, yeah?
Sorry, I just want to know then, so the questions that I have outlined in my public presentation, I'm able to send in and I will get answers to them? Is that correct, Chairperson?
Yeah.
Send them in.
Yes, send them in, and we can do our best to have administration answer them, but we can't answer those tonight at council table because that would be a debate. So we can have an email sent out, so if you send that email to Sean, he'll do his best to give you some timelines and the process of how it all went about. Yeah, go ahead.
And also, I was just curious, as for this public hearing, I noticed that like the 8 letters of opposition were not published as part of the agenda tonight, and I was just curious as to why that was not done.
No, they're all in there. They're all in there.
I couldn't find them.
They're in there, page 140-ish. I'll get it.
Okay, Jonathan will get it. They're all listed in there, all 20-something of them. So there's more than 8.
So from page 13,
So page 13 to
all the way through to page. Oh, there's a large one at the end.
If you click on.
All the way to page
You click on the
53.
link, you get nothing.
53. So from page 13 to page 53 in the agenda attachments are all the letters from residents listed out in detail, so you can find those. All right, thank you, Charlotte, again for taking the time to do a presentation to us and give us your thoughts on this. Mr. Chris Lisak, we can get you up next on the camera.
Yes.
Excellent, there you are.
Just comes up blank.
All right, I'm going to have you state your name and your address nice and clear, and we'll just do a quick sound check when you do that, and I'll give you a thumbs up.
Okay. My name is Christopher Lisak. I live on 708 Calkins Place.
Okay, are we good for volume?
Yep.
Okay, you're good to go, Chris. All yours. Floor is yours.
Okay. So good evening, Mayor Crane and councilors, everybody. As I just said, I'm down on Calkins Place in Turner Valley. We moved here, much like Gary and Wade, and kind of fell in love with the place as you come down the rural feel of the end of the road, where the subject property is. We have big concerns with the bylaw and believe the removal of the MR designation will open the doors for future development that will negatively impact our quality of life as residents here, and the property of our property value is another concern that, especially for Mr. Curley and amongst the rest of us. I can certainly see how the bylaw might benefit the future occupant of the land who entered into negotiation with the town at an astonishingly low price
Thank you, Mr. Lisak. Council, I actually forgot to ask if you had questions for Ms. Lammerhurt, so I'll ask you, do you have any questions for Mr. Christopher Lisak or Ms. Charlotte Lammerhurt?
Nope.
Okay, and seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Lisak, for your thoughts and for taking the time to dial into council here and let us know those. All right, that concludes our speaker section in opposition of bylaw number 21-1119. I'll now move. Are there other speakers? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the proposed bylaw who has not yet had an opportunity to do so? There's no one in chambers, so obviously I think we're done there. Would the applicant / the town staff like to rebut anything that has been said by the speakers in opposition or in favor? If there are any speakers in support or opposition of the amendment, you may do so now. Any rebuttal by the town?
No, I don't want a rebuttal, but just a point of clarity.
Okay. So just a point of clarity.
Just a point of clarity that this is a removal of a municipal reserve designation. This is not, at this point, a public hearing on the actual rezoning of the property.
Okay. So just a point of clarity from Mr. Patience is that this is just the removal of the MR, not the appointment of any other land use. Correct? Correct. All right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Thank you. At this point, I would like to thank all those who have spoke for or against the bylaw. Council will take your comments into consideration when deciding upon this matter. That being said, this public hearing is not closed, but will be continued on December 15th at 6:30 p.m. We will continue.
No, you need a motion
We're going to have a motion for that.
before you say that.
Okay, so we're going to have a separate motion. I'm going to go to Councillor Gordon at this point for that motion.
So with that being
Wait,
said,
1 second. Let me close. I think I'm going to close out first, and then we're going to kick you
Not
off.
No.
closing the public hearing, you're continuing.
That's right.
yeah.
Okay, just
So-
to be clear. 1 second, Waring. Councillor Gordon, if you could make a motion, please, for the continuance.
So with that being said, council hereby continues the public hearing for bylaw number 21-1119 on December 15th, 2021, to direct administration to continue this public hearing on that date at the next meeting of council, and then to direct administration to post notice of the continuation of the public hearing on the property in question.
All right. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Cindy up there, good, thank you. All right, and with that being said, we're done for this evening on the public hearing portion. And as the motion just passed says, we'll have a continuance of it on December 15th. So thank you again for those that dialed in. You're more than welcome to sit through and witness the rest of the meeting and listen to us debate other topics, but we won't be debating this particular bylaw this evening. And with that, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to my regular chair, and we're going to continue on with our regular agenda. All right, guys, good job.
Nothing's working now.
Moving on, we have delegations, 7.1, we have none. And moving to 8.1, Chief Administrative Officer's Report. Mr. Patience, we have 2 items there. We'll let you begin the field.
Thanks, Mayor Gray. See, I'm gonna be hoarse before this is over. So my first report is just an update on a couple of items. The first was in response to Mr. Lawton's question, which was posed to council on November 15th at their regular meeting. And his question was, I raised this issue last year when we had a major snowfall. However, my concern was not just when it snowed, The issue is parking on the east side of the main street on the north side of town. Any parking on this side, whether it snows or not, creates a pinch point. And there is parking on both the east and west side. Currently, there's an RV parked on the east side, which makes the problem worse. I think that there should be no long-term parking on the east side of Main Street beyond, say, 2-hour limit. So I posed a question to our Public Works lead, Mr. Craig Beaton, and I know Craig is online with us this evening. His response was really quite short, and we certainly had a look at the signage. So there's parking regulated all the way along. It does lack signage on the very north end of the street. However, Mr. Beaton's comments were, and you can certainly read these for yourself, didn't feel that the road width was actually an issue or causes a pinch point from his perspective. However, he does agree that the duration of time that a vehicle can be parked without moving should be limited, and in particular, RVs. He does believe our bylaw addresses this, so this is an enforcement issue if that's the case. I will also be having this conversation with Ms. LeBlanc and our municipal enforcement team. As for restricting the parking, as you well know, Main Street is part of a provincial highway system, and so the town doesn't have direct authority over it without involving Alberta Transportation. And I believe that's the same conversation we had when the speed limits on Sunset were brought forward earlier this year for discussion. So I'd leave that in council hands if that's something they would like to pursue. We're happy to do that. We'd like to consider that for some time and get back to administration. That's fine too.
Okay, council, any questions on that one? I do recall an email with some pictures sent out showing some of the parking signs that we presently have in place on the east side of the highway.
Yeah.
And that limits us to 1 hour, I believe,
Yep,
The
a
entire way, right?
commercial though. I think it says
for like
commercial.
commercial.
Yeah, commercial loading.
Okay, so is there any particular direction, Councillor Gordon?
I don't have really direction. I think it's something that we need to consider because that is a part of Alberta Transportation Network. We don't really have, like, we have to get Alberta Transport on side, right? Any restrictions that we place on there, we don't have autonomy on that, if I'm reading that correctly?
Correct.
That's right.
We can
So-
request.
It would just be simple request and move from there. Yeah, that's a tough one.
But the signs that are up there now, we didn't put up, they were put up by, as far as I know, they were put up by Alberta Transport. Might have been at our request, but we didn't actually put them up again.
Public Works, under Williamson.
Did they?
I think so.
How
Must
recent-
have been pre-me then.
That was 8 years ago, maybe, that we put those up. I don't think there's any need to move on this right now. Someone parks on Main Street, they're usually gone within hours. So far as snow removal, I think our staff has done a great job. And every year is different, so we don't know what we're in for yet. So I think it's something that we keep in the back of our minds for now, and if we see an issue that pops up in regard to that, then good.
I personally would have no, oh, sorry.
No, we're gonna go wearing them.
I personally would have no problem with making it a 2-hour limit for parking. Full stop, yeah, yeah.
I'm just gonna make a quick comment, and that is that,
Nice and loud for Cindy.
being a business owner on Main Street myself, I see what happens there, and if we put up restrictions on Main Street, what automatically happens is people then start to move on to the residential streets, so it's something that we need to keep in mind, because that creates extra traffic on residential streets, it creates people parking in places perhaps they're not supposed to be parking in, and so on and so forth. So not that I suggest that people should be parking on Main Street either, it's just that it needs to be noted that by putting those restrictions in place, people will automatically move into the pool parking lot, for example, onto the side residential streets and so on and so forth, which may create some issues for residents and such, so.
Excellent. No, that's a good thing to think about. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'd like to consider, the area in question here is not the commercial business district. This is across from, this is really the north end of town, if I'm not mistaken, where Mr. Lawton lives, correct? And he's got the open field across from him. And I think his main concern is there's been an RV that's been parked there for quite some time. Let's leave it at that. And it hasn't moved. So I'm wondering if we can think of from the corner of the fire hall north put that restriction in there. It does have the commercial loading already there all the way to the end,
With
right?
respect, he doesn't live there, he lives off Friendship Trail and that little road that goes up on Friendship Trail, the one we tried to get paved.
Oh, he is talking about where his business is.
Yeah,
Which
his
is his
business is next to the cannabis store, near where you used to work. End of that
Oh,
car
inside
park.
Mr. Bieber's land.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, on that point then, I'd have to agree with Curtis that we have to really consider that.
Well, and
Because if
if I might
it's-
have a follow-up.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice and
Um,
loud for Cindy.
If I might have a follow-up, the other thing that we may need to consider as well is when people park on the other side, when the post office was in that location, what we would often see is people would get out of their vehicles and walk out in front of traffic on that main street. So that's another thing, we may need to consider putting a crosswalk up or something like that if we're gonna allow, any sort of parking there at all. It is a bit of an issue as far as,
There is a
from what
crosswalk by your business, is there not?
Yes, but there is not in front of the librabody, which is where people tend to park to get to
If
the,
I-
to
if
get
I
to the
may,
post office, right?
we once before, we did ask, Alberta Transport
For another
about
one.
moving or putting in an additional sidewalk.
Yeah.
The one that's where it is now, which is by your business, it was put there for the kids to get across to the swimming pool, and they wouldn't agree to another crossing between there and the four-way stop. They said there'd be too many crossings.
So.
I say you guys is.
Yep. I think it's something we keep in the back of our heads as we watch the downtown develop, and snow clearing is definitely a priority. So having vehicles parked on the main drag during snow clearing season is a no-no.
Parking is an issue. period.
So-
There-
We can definitely look into parking downtown. So we'll move on from there. Thank you for the notification. Next.
So the third piece on that particular report is an update on the Sunset, reconstruction project that we undertook this summer. And, Mr. Beltran is actually here to join us to maybe give a quick update and, an analysis of the numbers that you have in front of you as part of that CAO report.
If you
Good
can
evening,
read
Council.
them.
Just wanted to let you know that the total costs are not finalized, but we're pretty much 99% there. I'm just waiting for a few invoices to come in. The costs are estimated, so they are accounted for, but not finalized yet. But the numbers you see at the top of the page are in yellow, are the final, thereabouts final costs.
Okay. Councillor Gordon.
So just to clarify, in our 2021, the estimate that we had was around 4.286, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking at this, we go with the light blue middle between the yellow and the green for the total project cost of being 3.6 million? Or do we go with the total town construction consultant?
I'll walk you through there. So
Please.
the, I forgot the name of the grant, but so Gooding Lane and Sunset are separated. So I show the cost there, $162,000 is for Gooding, it's in red.
Yep.
That's the amount to be covered that we're gonna claim for the grant. And the $3,454,000 is the cost of Sunset construction. So the total construction cost would be, sorry here. So the total Sunset would be $3,454,000 for Sunset. But I also included the consulting fees in there, which are in the green. If that answers your question.
So total cost?
Total cost,
To the town without the grant.
sorry, without the grant,
Yeah.
is $3,617,000 on the right side. Without-
What I mean is, don't fund the grant, like what is the cost of taxpayers? Is it the 3.34, or is the cost of taxpayers the 3.6?
Neither, because we have other grants
We
involved in this project.
We also have another grant from the Alberta Transportation covering the cost of the asphalt.
Which is down at 452,000, so are we under 3 million then, the total cost of town?
The top right there, the net town construction and consulting cost is 3.37. we're not below 3 million.
Okay.
What we are, MSI, right?
I forgot the name of the grant, MSI,
Yeah.
MSI is for, MSI is for Gooding.
Okay, one second. We've got Corinne here as well that we can call on.
We have Ms. Middleton here, so if you remember, no, the cost to the taxpayers here is far below that, so.
Yes.
We were gonna use the remainder of reserve funds. Corinne, can you recall, which grants we were spreading the cost of Sunset, across?
Yeah, so through the mayor, we were actually utilizing a couple of grants. So we were using a portion of federal gas tax, which was about $576,000. And then we were also tapping quite heavily into our MSI capital. So the direct cost to the taxpayers is what we're taking out of reserves, which, we've had those reserves in there for quite some time. So if we had to determine what the costs were to taxpayers, this money we're taking from reserves.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Middleton.
Did we get a number there?
Do we have an exact number, though, still?
For just
Oh.
taxpayers?
You have to leave it at. Sorry, Cindy, we were just asking for the
They can control it
the
themselves.
number
Mario.
without, the grants. So what is it the taxpayers end up paying?
How much reserve funds is what he's asking, I
Oh, if you
believe.
keep yours on mute though. Oh, for Cindy though.
Just doing some quick magic.
I'm just gonna get that number, if you can, just bear with me.
You bet.
I'm trying to determine at what date we took that to council with the breakdown of the 3.31 million.
I got you right.
We took it as a staff report. I believe it was in April.
Possibly May.
Do you wanna just do a,
Well, I was just gonna say,
yeah.
when Richard was making a presentation,
It's
that,
not, I think it's kind of what somebody's looking for, but I know in our capital budget package, we're estimating $2,090,186 in MSI gas tax and MSP going for Sunset and Gooding.
well, I was gonna say that I think Miss Middleton gave us the breakdown of how we were going to fund this. And I think that's what Miss Middleton's looking for right now. So maybe we should give her some time to get back to us either today or another day. We now know the costs. The costs are below what we budgeted for. So, Miss Middleton, I know you've talked to us about how we're gonna pay for this. I think we're going to avoid debentures, we thought. So hopefully we're still in that position, but I think we need to find that report maybe and look at it and get back to us.
I have it here.
Oh, great.
Share your screen.
So to address your question, Mr. Mayor, so how we initially set up the funding for it was, we had $500,000 was coming from the Alberta Transport. And then we had, about 1.786 million that was coming from grant funds. And that funding breakdown was 576,000 was from federal gas tax fund, and then the rest was coming from MSI, so that's 1.2 million. And then we had $960,000 that we were taking from reserves. And that was coming from 3 reserve accounts. We were taking 360,000 from proceeds from sale, 300,000 from amortization, and 300,000 from unallocated, for a total of 960,000. With respect to Gooding Lane, we received $304,000 from an MSP grant for that particular project.
Yes.
162.
Yes, okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you for finding that breakdown, Corinne. I know that's computer magic right there. So, fantastic. Councillor Waring has a question?
Okay, I'm confused. The yellow bar across the top, where it says total construction and consultant budget, and then at the far end it says town total construction and consult cost. Is that the actual final cost?
That is the cost minus the cost of gooding. So this is for,
So that's just Sunset.
well, I'm accounting for the grant funding to cover the cost of gooding.
No, I think I know what I'm looking for, Richard, is A, what's the total cost without any money that's from grants or anything else, the total cost of Sunset as a project? Secondly, what's the total cost of Gooding as a project? And thirdly, after that, what monies are we taking from grants and what remains that's going to be debentured and become part of our operating budget? Does that make sense?
Yes, so the total cost would be if I sum up the right side of the blue and the right side of the green, so the 3,617,000
Yeah.
plus the 368,000, which we get to 3,985,000.
Hang on, where's the 368,000 coming from?
That is the cost of the engineering.
Okay, so in the blue, the total project construction cost 3.617891 plus the engineering,
Yes,
and that's for both projects.
I got you right.
yes.
Okay. So then after that, we're going to get the list of all the monies that we're going to take from different grants and everything else, and then we're going to come out with a number that's left that's going to be a debenture, or?
No,
We can't debenture.
no, we had agreed, if I might, Mr. Mayor,
Absolutely.
we had agreed at the time, and I believe Kurt is right, it was, I think, late April or early May, that we wouldn't require a debenture, that we'd
Okay.
utilize reserves. And just for clarification, to debenture a project like that, we must do it, and if you recall me bringing this to
Yeah.
you, we must do it in advance of the start of construction. So we will be utilizing reserves, and I believe we're actually slightly under budget on this project.
Okay,
It's
so,
good
so
news,
bas-
considering-
basically, when we're all finished, there's nothing gonna go into the operating
Correct.
budget to cover any sort of loans or anything else.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm good,
Perfect.
thank you.
Councillor Rath.
Yes, you just added $386,000 to that number. You had 3,617,000, but you said another 386,000 for engineering, so that's almost 4 million.
Yeah, that's right,
Okay.
368,000.
Now,
Yes,
going back to Miss Middleton, if I added your numbers up correctly, Miss Middleton, I got 304,000 from this grant on Gooding, 500 from Alberta Transport, 1.78 from grants, gas at MSI, another 960 for reserves, which brought me to 3.55. So that still leaves us with a shortfall of about $400,000 plus or minus. So I would suggest that we, appreciate that we received this here from Richard, but I think we need to wait to get some funding numbers, perhaps for our next meeting. Would that be possible? Because I mean, we know what the budget is. It's under budget. It's 4.3, but we're still paying almost 4. And from what if my numbers are correct, we're a little bit short of funding that 4 million for 3.5.
4,003,891.
So let's ask administration to give us some hard numbers for us the next time. Is that fair?
That's fine, yeah.
That you'll give us the costs, and Miss Middleton will give us where it's gonna be funded from. Is that fair, Miss Middleton? Perfect.
Form of a motion.
I'll make that motion that, thank you, Richard, for your presentation and the information. Please come back with the hard numbers of what we spent and how it's gonna be paid for.
Bingo. One sheeter.
One sheeter.
Simple.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cindy's in favor too.
Perfect.
Mayor Crane, may I ask one?
Yep, absolutely.
Richard, on Gooding Lane, is there any more work that needs to be done on Gooding Lane for the Sutherland building to be constructed?
Good question.
The vacant lot,
Yeah.
north of the post office.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
At the time that the development applies for a building permit, they'll evaluate what infrastructure they need to put in to connect to Gooding Lane.
That'll be on their side?
Well, they'll be on their side, they'll connect to the
The
main
town.
for stormwater, and that would be their cost.
So it'll be their cost to pay for the stormwater connection,
Yes,
plus the water and the sewer line?
all the utilities.
They
Okay,
tie in all that.
okay. So there is nothing to hold them up to move that project forward, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, excellent. Moving on. Did you have another item on CAO report? I see we got lines request. Is that the next one in line?
That is, in fact, Mr. Mayor, yes. So this request also came out of the last regular council meeting on November 15th, excuse me. And the request came from the Lions Club, asking the mayor and council to consider directing Public Works to provide use of their Zamboni to regularly provide cleaning of the outdoor rink at the Black Diamond Campground. They would also send a similar letter to the new mayor and council of Black Diamond and ask for their assistance in directing Public Works to regularly flood the ice surface and clear the roadway of snow. So, administration was I had suggested at the last meeting that I would seek input from Mr. Beaton, as that's his department, in terms of what he thought about the request and any costs that, time requirements and costs that might be associated with it as per council's direction. And you do see Mr. Beaton's response, and I believe we have him online tonight, and I asked him to join us specifically for this. So his thoughts were that we maintain a high level of service in the parks for our citizens and visitors, and to take a great deal of pride in maintenance and providing fun activities in the winter. And of course we have 3 FTEs, which includes our supervisor in the Parks Department. And they work a seasonal schedule, so we have 7-day coverage right now, which often leaves one of them working alone on weekends and potentially some weekdays. So the request was, and of course I'm reading it almost verbatim, the request would add several hours to an already complicated work schedule and place stress on team members. Now, that said, I mean, obviously we always try to assist where we can, but as instructed, I did seek input from him on this, and this was, I think, his honest response to it. So this is certainly no degradation of the request or the Lions Club have done a fantastic job over there. I've been over there several times myself checking it out. So in addition to the lack of availability of staff, there are some risks with working alone, i.e. getting stuck on a route, needing assistance, slipping, falling, injury, that kind of thing. Travel time to and from Black Diamond, driving the Zamboni on the tractor, we would obviously incur fuel costs, maintenance of equipment. There's no water supply at the outdoor rink at the campground, so we would need to garner water from somewhere in Black Diamond so that we avoided the freeze up on the way into the, in the drive between. And I know I've spoken to the administrator on Black Diamond side, and obviously there would be a charge for that water that if the municipality did it, we would be required to pick up. So some risk, some liability to staff, and some onus of liability for the services must be considered, Mr. Beaton suggests. Available water supply and costing would require a practical solution, since there's, again, no water at the campground available. And finally, providing Public Works, and of course this is an opinion of Mr. Beaton's, and while I did vet this to some degree, I thought it important that his thoughts were conveyed clearly and articulately as he had provided them to me. He was a little concerned about a precedent being set here as well that would be looked at potentially by other nonprofits in terms of assisting them as well. So things for council to consider. He's also provided a very small spreadsheet here to suggest
what type of time and labor potentially would be involved. And of course, we don't know how often this would be. The request really was just regularly, to provide use of the Zamboni machine to regularly provide cleaning of the outdoor rink. So that's why you don't see like a number that it would cost this much over the course of the season, because we really don't know how many times this would be required. So I think Mr. Beaton has provided as probably honest an opinion on this as possible. And like I said, I know the Lions Club has done tremendous work in both our communities, and they continue to do so. So it's certainly no slight, but I think my staff needed to be very honest in their appraisal of the request, and I think they have been in this for council's consideration.
Okay.
And I'm sure Mr. Beaton would be happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay, perfect. I've got Councillor Gordon first. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Mr. Beaton, for the very detailed and clear presentation here regarding the opportunity we have to support the Lions Club and the work that you do in our community. Just for clarity's sake, you have the Zamboni cut here in the gray section. You're expecting that to take about an hour and a half, so you're basing it on that labor time there, which I appreciate. If there was part and parts, because obviously the Lions has a large volunteer staff, would they be able to take care of the flooding that the Zamboni requires to come in and out? So could we just reduce this to the middle part there, where it's just the use of the Zamboni? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are there as to why you've included a hand flood, a Zamboni flood, and then plowing and sanding as part of the town's opportunity to support here. Could we just focus on the Zamboni use? What do you think?
Absolutely. I just provided the length of time it has to take as per my view on it, as well as just giving you a dollar value, like a forced rate as to what that would cost coming from the town, just giving you a broader scope of I just wanted to cover any details of for any question that may have arisen from this. So I broke down the tasks to each area. I added an approximate time to complete those tasks and the cost associated. So it just gives you a broader overview. But absolutely, the Zamboni's broken up there on its own with the operator.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, Craig, if you wouldn't mind, do you know if there would be any additional insurance liability requirements in order to be able to take the equipment out of town that would add additional costs as well?
No, our insurance is pretty inclusive. The area that might get a little odd is, which I would have to look into, is the grounds themselves. So being a campground, I realize it's a town-owned property, but it's an operation of the Lions Group. So I don't know if there's a gray area in there around liability for us. But I expect not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waring.
Just a question about labour costs, because the guys that would be doing this are in the budget anyway for our operations. So we're basically trying to find a couple of hours when they're not doing something else that may be quite less important. So I don't, unless we're doing this on the weekend, I don't see there's an additional labour cost to the town. But I do see that there's costs associated with fuel and wear and tear and things like this.
Correct. I'm just providing an honest forced rate for our labor and time. It's not necessarily necessary that we bill that out as per council's decision, but I just wanted to reflect it.
Yeah, so it's basically out-of-pocket costs for fuel and wear and tear would be the only incurred expense if we needed it.
And water.
Yeah.
Well, the water's going to be supplied by that's my understanding.
No, at cost.
At cost.
The water for the rink,
Yes.
Mhm.
but we can't supply that.
No fire trucks. We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Any other comments on this one?
Cindy.
Cindy, go ahead, Cindy. And I think Corinne had a question or something as well.
Do we know how often we're talking about yet? Just like once at the beginning of the season, every week, every day?
The Lions Club was thinking 4 times in total.
Go ahead.
The Lions Club was thinking 4 times in total. So, just to give an idea.
Every time you get a Chinook, it all melts and you have to go back and do it
Well,
again.
so if I could speak to this just for council and for Craig. So as of yet, the weather has still been too warm to even put down a base. So tomorrow, actually, we're going to sheathe the bottom of the rink as a Lions Club, and we should get some snow. So we're hoping that's going to be a little bit of a lay and a melt and a crisping. But then we have the fire truck, Black Diamond, is going to help us with the first initial flood to get a base in. And then we needed to talk to Turner Valley's fire department for the same ask. And after that, we have a hand-pulled or quad-pulled Zamboni at the Lions Club that we'll use with a 50-gallon drum. So this is our first year, so we expect to have lots of failures and lots of learning. So the ask of Turner Valley for the Zamboni was strictly for, you know, if we could get it to a level where we could call in the big gun to come in and do a nice once over once a month, because we're only going to have ice for 4 months total if we're lucky. Just once a month to come over and give it a fresh face. That was kind of our hope. So at this point, so far in the year with no ice, you know, we're just looking at making sure we have all the options extended, and if we have the chance to say, hey, do you think we can give us a hand? That's really what we want to have, is we want to have the olive branch extended to say, do you think it's possible to give us a hand if we get into a hard spot? So that's kind of where we're at with the ask right now, I think. And I think the numbers that are laid out here by Craig are great, because we know now there's a small cost, but maybe the opportunity comes up where it is doable and the time is there. We can broach it when the time comes. And maybe we don't need it, we don't know. But the idea from the Lions Club perspective is to have the olive branches extended to all partners in hopes that we can solve problems as they arise as immediately as possible. So that's all I would suggest right now. Go ahead, Craig.
Thank you. So if it's just a straight 4 times in a season, that's pretty straightforward and pretty quick and quite simple. Sean pointed out, there was no, or sorry, maybe it was Cindy that pointed this out, that I didn't have any frame of reference as to number of times, so I had to try and make a lot of assumptions here. So, yeah, and if you need some assistance with some training, I don't mind helping with that sometime either. For your volunteers, that is.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Rabb.
Well, may I suggest, this letter came from Tim Beer, the president of Foothills Lions Club.
Timber.
That's who should get the report back, so I suggest that Craig sends us to, as a reply back. The numbers seem fairly high to me as a Lions member, but as a town councillor, which I'm supposed to represent here tonight, it looks okay. But I think I heard you say, Craig, that these are numbers that you can give them as an indication of what it's gonna cost them, but you are open to other possibilities negotiated at the time it's needed. Is that what I hear you say?
Absolutely, I take direction from council.
So, yeah, and it would be your direction, I think. You're the ones that make, you have to make that decision, you know, what it costs. But I'm saying that we should reply, send these numbers in response to Tim Beer, administration, and then suggest that if they talk to Craig, there might be some, you know, if, like you say, that he's not sure, he's trying to cover all bases. That's why it's confusing. if you said all we're doing is just shaving it, getting it flat, one flood, it might be a different cost, still gonna be at cost. Fair enough.
So, if I might, Mr. Mayor, so the letter actually came to council,
Yes,
right? So the questions that arose at the council meeting were like, how much would this cost?
Yes.
What type of equipment would be involved?
We got it.
Administration look into this for us, so that's why we brought this back for your,
perfect.
Yeah.
for your take. Obviously, you know, repairs and maintenance, if we gotta pay for water, gas, those are all out of pocket costs, right?
Yep.
And so, Craig is absolutely correct, that we weren't certain how many times we were looking at to do this, and obviously, we don't have a lot of staff just hanging around waiting for something to do either. I would never attest to that, so that's what we did, so that's why we haven't written a letter back to the Lions Club. This was brought forward for council's information, and obviously, you know, we're here to take the direction from council in terms of how they'd like to proceed with this.
Okay, so I've got Dixon and Waring, and then Gordon.
So if I recall, it was me that brought the question up as to the cost, and as a matter of fact, and I just thought it was important for us to understand if there was significant cost involved. I certainly support this. I certainly support some, supporting the Lions Club. I just wanted to be sure that there wasn't any significant costs to the town involved, and it looks to me like there isn't really a significant cost involved. So I really appreciate your work, Craig, on this, and thank you very much for your presentation here. So thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Waring.
I'm going to assume that when the Lions open this ice skating, they won't be charging the public to skate there. Therefore, I think it's time that we put on our public hat and said, let's just help. Let's not charge anything. Let's not go overboard like going there every week. Let's think of what it would be a reasonable number of times through the winter. The schedule would always have to be made to fit Craig's other priorities. And if we had to go there half a dozen times through the winter to do and help, I've got no problem with it, and I wouldn't want to charge him.
Awesome.
I agree. It's a lot easier to say that now when we have the information.
Yeah, no, that's good. Councillor Gordon?
I've got a motion to that regard there, Councillor Waring. So picking up on what Councillor Waring says, this is my motion that council directs administration to offer the use of the town of Turner Valley Zamboni at the onset once per month at the town of Turner Valley's expense for the use of the Lions campground ice rink.
Well, your motion is meaner than mine.
Well, it's at least once per month.
May I amend your motion?
At a minimum
May I
of.
add to the motion? No, I just want to add to it that it's, as long as it's not interrupting with the regular town business, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to put that in
And
there.
as,
It wouldn't. It would
as
be
the
public
administrator, I
priority.
do need to point that out, that if we have other priorities, we
Yeah,
have to fulfill them first.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'd hate to people of Black
So,
Diamond thinking we're
Make
mean.
that comment when I open it back up. Okay, so we have a motion. As the maker of the motion, would you like to comment to it first, and then we're gonna go around the table one more time before we vote?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a good opportunity to, of goodwill, and it's a good opportunity to support our neighbors. I'm certain there'll be many of our residents who will be using it. I know I will get down there if there's a fire pit and some hot chocolate boiling, and you never know. Get a barbecue going and whatnot, and just have a good old fun time down there. It's a good opportunity just to show our support for a community event like this, a community rink. So I fully support this idea, and thank the Lions Club for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Councillor Rob?
Well, I'm a Lions member, so I certainly like that motion and will support it, but I wouldn't be the first one to make that motion because
Because you remember.
I'm a member, I think, yeah, so. Yeah, I think it's goodwill, you know, and it's not gonna happen, you know, maybe 3 times, like Mayor Crane, you say you're gonna have 4 months. End of February is, if you ask Craig, end of February is kinda the end of the season, and here we are, the 6th of December, so.
Yeah.
If you get 2.5 months, so you might get 3 or 4 occasions that we use it, that'd be it, so. I appreciate the
2, he
motion.
says. That's good. Okay, thank you, Councillor Rob. Councillor Dixon, then Councillor Waring.
Yeah, so I'd just like to make a comment that I support this as well. I'd just like to add that provided it doesn't interfere with normal operations of the town and the equipment being spoken about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Town comes first, for sure.
Councillor Waring, then
I'd
Councillor
just
Martin.
like to thank Councillor Gordon for putting forward my motion on my behalf.
You didn't call it as a motion, dude.
I was about to, and you jumped in with both feet.
I did my best.
The classic steal of Waring's motion.
Again.
Again.
Oh, yeah, that was Wilkie.
I
That
did
was
you
on
good
you
too.
doing it.
I did him on the TELUS one a couple of years ago.
Never been forgiven.
Councillor Martin.
I just wanna say, you know, I think this is a great idea. I'm really all for it and I totally support it. So.
Excellent. Cindy, just as well to throw in. Thumbs up, right on. And of course, I fully support this. And I would just point out that there already are 2 cords of wood that's spread out, 8 fire pits, 16 picnic tables, a rink that's 40 by 160 that's prepped and waiting for the water in the cold weather. And we've got 60 sets of tree lights strung out around the park, and we'll have some light poles
Yeah.
as well that will illuminate it at night.
Are they
on
on?
a time.
Lights on?
Lights are on. So
Nice, looks
on
good.
Saturday
it's a
night,
community
it looks
good
good.
initiative,
Good.
and I really am happy that council support the community volunteers this way. So
One final word.
one final word from Waring.
I'd just like to say, Craig, what a great job your team is doing on the lights this year. I
Yeah.
drove through the campground the other night. Excellent.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Our
And
downtown is looking amazing.
I saw them out there again today doing some more work, and when I came out tonight in the dark, I could see the fruits of their labours, and it's really good.
Awesome.
Especially when you have the Grinch.
Yeah.
I haven't
The
seen
great-
it.
Yeah.
With the tree
It's so
down.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen it.
they
There you
did
go.
a great
I
idea.
haven't seen it.
And all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you very much.
I'm in favour of my motion, not his.
Moving forward, administrative responses, number 9, we have none. However, 10.1 administrative inquiries, I believe we have 2. Councillor Holliday and Councillor Gordon. Councillor Holliday, would you like to read off yours first?
Yeah,
I'll ask you to read yours.
if I can find it. Yeah, one of the indications and process involved for removing the requirement for sheds under 10 foot by 10 foot to be shown on RPRs.
Mr. Patience.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Holliday. I did speak with Becky from Urban on this. So, of course, we don't dictate what a surveyor implies on a real property report. Their job is to really denote where there's building sheds, fences, that kind of thing on a property. So, but I do, having spoken with the Deputy Mayor, I believe the question was raised in an effort to try and reduce some of the red tape around the compliance letters, if I'm correct. So, because we don't require a development permit for anything under 10 by 10, and if you recall, earlier this year we supplanted the land use bylaw and actually increased the requirement for development permits for accessory buildings for everything above 100 square feet. And we're seeing now in the compliance process that, and I believe it was 500 square feet previously, somewhere in that area, which was quite a large building actually. We are running into, and my counterpart to my right here will contest, or attest to the fact that we're running into a lot of those accessory buildings that are now encroaching not only upon the setbacks, but some upon municipal boulevards and laneways. So I very much appreciate what the Deputy Mayor is asking, and certainly I appreciate the intent. Now, because we don't require a permit for a 10 by 10, however, when we do our compliance certificate checks, we actually don't look for compliance with those accessory buildings that are under 10 by 10. We obviously have a concern when it comes to how close they are to the property line and whether they're deflecting drainage from that building onto a neighboring property, because that is an issue, obviously. So, as it stands now, any structure under 10 by 10 is not reviewed for setback requirements. Therefore, there shouldn't be any red tape existing that really relates to this.
So, since it's not habitable, typically it's also movable. They contemplated this when Urban updated the land use bylaw and added additional standards for situations for accessory buildings of this size. And like I said, we still need to consider drainage, and we certainly understand why the question was posed. But if the effort was to reduce red tape, and I'm quoting Becky in this particular piece, I don't believe that there's red tape that currently exists in relation actually to the setbacks on the sheds. And obviously we don't do the RPRs, we provide opinion on the setbacks on the RPRs, but I do very much appreciate the fact that she's trying to look out for our best interests and to help us through those processes, knowing that we're fighting from behind a little bit and will be till we get our staff complement back in that department. So I hope that answers your question, Deputy Mayor Holliday.
Yeah, I'll probably come and talk to you a little bit more about it, but that's good for now, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Gordon, 10.2.
Yeah, through the chair, if I may, Mr. Patience, would you please provide an update on the excess lands that we have listed, which are currently for sale? Has there been any movement at all? What's the current status of these lands? Could you provide an update for us, please?
So, and I did note that you also asked for some heavy detail on this as well, if I recall correctly. If I remember your wording, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, with a little bit more detail than just saying, no, there's been no movement. You know, what's the current status?
So,
And has there been any offers at all even?
well, you took the wind right out of my sails.
Sorry,
because
man.
no, there has been no movement. So, in fact, we had 3 properties that were declared surplus. Oh, I believe just prior to my arrival in Turner Valley, that were listed with an MLS agent, who very sadly has since passed away actually. So they now fall into the realm of Sam Johnson, pardon me. I have spoken with him on this, and I believe that the dating on those properties is about 250 days, so it's a good part of a year that they've been on the market. So for clarification, we really only have 1 on the market at this point of the 3, and that is the 609 Anderson Crescent property. And that property, for some reason, someone was allowed to subdivide a corner out of the western portion of that property, which created, I don't want to say an issue, but challenged access and servicing into the property to some degree. It's certainly nothing that can't be mitigated, but it's no longer a nice rectangular piece of property. It's now essentially got 1 corner chopped out of it. So we've had that advertised on MLS at $400,000. Have I had a lot of calls on it? Not a lot. I have had some, I will say. The other 2 properties, which were 328 Robert and 328
John?
I believe, thank you.
Is it down, John?
There's a reason I didn't bring a physical report on those 2 properties. Because when I was looking at those back in September, if you recall, late August, something struck me as funny that both of the properties we have for sale had exactly the same number. Now, they had a different street address, but they had and I thought, what would the odds of that be? They're literally about 6 houses down from each other. So that didn't make sense. So I really did start to dig and pull the old files. I pulled the land titles, pulled the old subdivision plans. One of the large piles on my desk is completely associated with this question. And it turns out that when that block was subdivided and the residential properties that lie in between those 2 properties were sold and subdivided, the 2 properties on the end, which are both 328, the reason that they're both 328 is because they were never untied from the title.
Oh no.
So we could not sell one without selling the other. So I've pulled them off of MLS and now have to deal with a potential subdivision and reissue, re-registration of land titles on those 2 properties. So that's why you no longer see them on MLS.
Well,
Interesting.
Good catch.
So with that as well, I think did we have to declare those by bylaw as a surplus?
Yes, you did.
So would we have to do another bylaw once they're subdivided, potentially?
Well, you did declare them as surplus. The fact that they were tied together was the one that was sort of the key to the whole proposition, so. And in fact, if you go back, and I actually researched the motion that was made on the properties. And exactly the same address with exactly the same lot, block and plan numbers, or lot, plan numbers on them, so. That was a dead giveaway to me that,
We missed
that can't be the case, so. That's actually part of your RFD, actually at council as well, so nobody caught it at the time, but I did catch it, and while I had a minor technical issue I discussed with you prior to this meeting, that one I did catch, so,
All right.
can't win them all, so anyway, that's about, I have spoken with Sam on the property, for the 609 Anderson Crescent. We have extended the MLS listing on it till February at this point.
So one quick follow-up on that, just, those are all R1, our initial zone? Or is there an allowance on that 609 Anderson?
I know they were noted on the ads originally as municipal reserve, and I asked them to change that designation. They still show up that way depending on what website you're looking at.
Yeah.
And in fact, the zoning on this is MR. Sorry, I can't recall the zoning on that particular piece, and I don't want to give you a bum steer on that, so I easily can catch you on it in the morning and let you know what that is.
That'd be great.
Which R1?
Thank you.
I pulled this off of Realtor.ca and I can see that it still
Still
says
MR.
zoning MR, and I know that is not the case, so my apologies, I thought I had you covered.
No, that's fine, I just bring that up because that's I did notice that as well on Realtor.ca. I'm good, thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Waring?
Yeah, one of our local realtors passed a comment the other night at that
It's in here.
meeting that she felt that the prices on those were unrealistic for the current market.
She did.
So maybe she mentioned it to you as well. So that's all I wanted to mention. Thank
She
you.
did, in fact, yes, and this was the meeting.
So it's so we have it on till February, and that's fine. And then after that, we can stand her down for a bit, probably.
We can, and then potentially, an appraisal on a property like that's probably gonna run around $2,000, $2,200, something like that. We can do it, and obviously I spoke to the young lady who Councillor Waring is referencing. It's a fairly large property, but
Can only take one home.
and I'm actually gonna reference comments made during the public hearing this evening in regards to the price of the 5-acre parcel. Everything's relative, I guess, and comparable, so. Obviously, we're not moving it, there's a reason we're not moving it, and I would suggest A, it's either market, B, it's price, or C, it's got something to do specifically with the piece of land itself.
Okay.
So, yeah, hopefully that provides some background anyway.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on, if I have no other comments on the land,
Is it time for a bathroom?
I'm thinking it is time for a 5-minute bio,
Councillor Rav, you're my hero, but.
right? So we're gonna take a 5-minute bio break, and we will be right back. Little recess.
So 12.3 doesn't need
We had, like, so,
Did you hear Mary
fire truck and black diamond.
And a small little debate ensued. Are we all good to move on, Councillor Gordon?
Yeah, I'll give you a motion that we postpone 11.1 until our next council meeting of December 15th, following the completion of our public hearing.
Thank you. All right, so we have a postponement of 11.1. All in favor of that? Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Council Procedure Bylaw 21-1118. You have an RFD attached. Red line version.
Can I give you the motion?
I will gladly take a motion from you, Councillor Waring. Go ahead.
The council rescind resolution number 21.11.01.02 Moved by Councillor Raab at the organisational meeting, which states that council set the regular council meetings for the first and third Wednesday of each month, commencing at 7 p.m, effective January the 1st, 2022. The council set the 2022 regular council meetings for the first and third Wednesday.
Ooh, separate
Two
motion.
separate.
That's what I
Doesn't
thought.
say that, does it?
No, it does, it is.
It's the way it's
Okay.
written though.
We're gonna make it two.
End of motion.
So you're gonna clean it off at,
January the 1st, 2022.
okay? All right. Any discussion on that?
It's my motion, so should I speak on it? Let's move it to
It was.
let's move it to 6:30, I'm good. I'm good with rescinding.
We're gonna rescind? All right.
I'm good with rescinding.
All right, Cindy, anything? You're good? All right, all in favor? And that is carried. Did you have another motion?
I did, funnily enough. The council set the 2022 regular council meetings for the first and third Wednesday of each month, commencing at 6:30 p.m, with no meetings on the first Wednesday in January, July and August, effective January the 1st, 2022.
Clean cut, very concise.
On the dot.
Beautiful. Any debate on that? Councilor Gordon.
I have to say, because I said it then, I'm opposed to this motion because I unfortunately wasn't able to continue an important volunteer item that I was enjoying. So disappointed that we've moved to Wednesdays.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All in favor of the motion? Cindy, did you want to comment, or are you waving with a thumbs up?
No, I was just worried about not having the first meeting on the 1st of January. Are we on that? We are on that, right?
Yeah, there will never be a meeting on the 1st of January if it lands on a Wednesday.
No, that's not what that
No,
It says the first-
this is the first Wednesday in January due to New Year's and holiday.
The first Wednesday in January, January 5th, as far as my calendar says.
And we're not gonna be meeting because there's not gonna be anybody in the office to get the agenda.
I see what you're saying, Cindy. Okay, sorry. Yes, that makes total. Oh, can you unmute, please?
So what are we doing now?
Yes, that makes total sense. Sorry, Cindy. So we should bump that to the next available day, obviously, if it ever lands on the Wednesday.
It'd be the 5th, so we'd have it on the 6th.
But I'll tell you what, why don't we get this vote out of the way, and then we'll deal with when we have to fill in those meetings if they land on a Wednesday, as in this case, which is kind of comical.
So point on that.
Yep.
The reason, if you remember in our discussion as to why in our governance and priorities commission, we talked about not having it on this Wednesday in January. It follows the offices being closed the week prior, so administration wouldn't be getting an agenda ready. So it's a moot point to have a meeting that week. That is my understanding.
Which goes to Councilor Waring's point of following up on the 5th, which would be a Monday.
No, the 5th is the Wednesday.
Yeah.
The 6th is this Thursday.
Talking about the whole
So
week,
we wouldn't
not
do
just
it that
the
week
The
at
whole
all.
week?
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay.
Talking about the whole week, not just the day.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, my sound cut you out, so I missed a bunch of what you guys were saying to begin with. My only concern with not having one in the beginning of January is that because of what happened tonight with pushing back the public hearing, and this thing taking, if it takes longer, if we're not meeting again till end of January, that was my concern.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna suggest that we move ahead with the motion as is, and then we deal with when do we want that first meeting of January to be held as a separate entity and discussion.
Could be
all
a
in
special
one.
meeting.
Exactly, it
That's
can be a
totally
special
separate.
Like we
meeting,
do anyway.
exactly,
It doesn't need a
Right?
discussion.
just to make it clean.
Yeah, and so rather than saying it's got to be the next day, we can pick a date that works for everybody,
As long as it works with admin.
but we can meet without them.
Make sense, Mr. Patience?
Yeah, really, if I might, the issue, and Councillor Gordon is exactly correct. The concern was that after the 23rd of December, we're really on a skeleton staff schedule in the office. and we have 5 days in a row where we're off, a number of people have taken holidays, so we would literally have to get the agenda out probably by the 21st, 22nd of December, and we have a council meeting on the 15th, which really doesn't provide much time to put a proper agenda package. So, the 4th of January, which is the Tuesday, is actually our office's opening day, because the Monday has been taken as in lieu of New Year's Day.
That's right.
So you can see where it's not that we don't wanna have a meeting, it's just that I'm very concerned that we won't have an agenda package, and if we do, it'll be very minimal, and no one here to respond to any questions once we post it up or anything like that. So that was my issue, right?
Okay.
Councillor Holiday's absolutely correct, that it does cause for a bit of a delay in that January meeting, and especially moving up the December meeting to the 15th. We are going to be 15th of December to 19th of January. That's how it would roll out, just to be very upfront and clear. So you're a month between council meetings.
Yep. Okay. And if we need to have a special council meeting,
We could have a special
can
one
call
week
it.
before.
Yep.
Good,
Yep.
yeah.
Second, we
We're
start
good at
second,
Yep.
go to second and third, go to second and third,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wednesday,
if
that
need
is.
be.
If need be.
Specific item.
Yep. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Everyone clear?
Yep. All in favour?
All right. All in favor?
Did I say that?
You did. And all opposed? And that motion is carried. Thank you.
Keep
That's
going, Mr.
11
Motion
point,
Man. There's two more
oh my
motions
gosh.
there.
Two
He's
more
got two
motion, okay.
Oh, someone got to take one from him.
I'll give you the next one.
Brad got you good.
Council gives second reading of Council Procedures Bylaw 21-118 as amended.
Okay. Straightforward. Any comments? We discussed this at our governance priorities.
No, I didn't.
Why'd you make the
I
motion?
clearly wasn't there, he says. Okay, all in favor? Oh,
Cindy
Is
had a
that-
question.
were you gonna comment, Cindy, again?
Yes, I had a few errors that I wanted corrected.
All right.
We can vote on this and I can correct them for third, whichever.
Okay, let's do that.
As amended.
We'll continue with the vote.
If you notice,
Go
We'll
ahead.
continue with the vote, and then you can make the amendments on the next one.
says who's second.
Well, just say as amended, that's okay.
Well, she'll make. Okay, so all in favor?
We'll get it.
Just to clear?
As amended.
No, have
Good.
that happen.
All right, Cindy, you can make the next motion.
It's wrong in the minutes here, by the way.
Yeah, it says.
Are we still
second.
muted?
It says
No,
second
there.
twice.
It
I'm
should,
having issues with my
Oh, mine's
microphone. It seems that every time
it should be third reading.
it cuts
It-
you
mine
right
says
just
third.
Second
before
again,
you
okay.
leave.
No,
So
it's third reading.
Not the top, no, the bottom is administration
Oh, I
recommendations,
see.
read that.
Yeah.
Are we muted?
So I can't hear you guys at all when
You
I'm.
can read the options, are right,
Something
but,
up there.
right?
Click
I
that.
want to point out 13.2.
It says we're muted.
There was some redundancy
No,
between.
we're doing option one.
13.2B
Option one, it
and
says
F.
third
There was a
reading.
bunch of things that were written, things that you weren't allowed to discuss at council meeting. They were repeated a couple of times, so that needed to be fixed. But that was the biggest one.
So
And then
Okay.
there's the.
So let's ask her, can you click
Figured out the
unmute?
point
Let's
of
interrupt
privilege,
her,
point of order,
'cause
question
we're
of privilege,
confused.
all that stuff. I was just wondering if in 14J and K, the point of privilege, wasn't mentioned when they listed all the other ones. I wasn't sure if that was right or not.
Okay, can you
I'm
unmute so we can
confused
talk?
here.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Can you just list out exactly those points? 13, I think you had 2 in there, and 14, you had 2 in there. Could you just say those again for Sean?
Yeah, so it's under question period, 13.2B. It talks about the things, 1, 2, and 3 under 13.2B. It talks about things that you can't talk about anything in public hearings or commercial products, promoting commercial products. And 3, things that have previously done by council. And then if you go down to F, there's the yellow section that it reiterates the exact same things. So
It's been
those are
crossed
what I'm
out.
talking about there.
It's deleted. on
Is the
mine.
yellow part being deleted?
Yeah,
Hey?
Yellow part's
The
deleted.
yellow part's all being deleted there, Councillor or Deputy Mayor.
It's being deleted?
Is
Yeah.
that correct?
That's my
There's
understanding.
no red line to it.
It's not a red
No,
line?
there's no
No,
red
it's not a red line.
That's
Oh.
highlighted as a change, I thought.
It needs deleting. I just assumed it was deleted because it was yellow.
1 second, Lisa's just having a look. Yeah, because further up you'll see.
Yeah, I know it's there again.
There's yellow, it's,
In the new draft, it's there again.
If I may,
yeah, go ahead.
Cindy, would, maybe it's a matter of semantics, but 13.B is about a question being addressed at the regular council meeting, and 13.2F deals with submissions as opposed to direct questions. So it could be a matter of semantics. What do you think about that?
It's all under the section question, under question period. So submissions, questions, it's all the same. No, it's, I think it's just a duplication when we added and changed things that it got missed.
Why don't we do the
Just
third
clerical.
reading at the next meeting?
Yeah, we'll do the third reading at the next meeting,
And then you got a chance to.
and then we can have this here vetted again just to make sure coming back.
I see what she's talking about.
Yeah, it's better to do
No
it
giant rush, right?
before we read it.
No giant rush.
It's not a duplication though.
No, it's one submissions
There.
and one,
Yeah,
and
it's,
that's what we talked about at GPAC, one
Yeah.
was submissions and one was something question,
yeah.
that question period.
We'll give a chance to come in and talk about it and get it sorted out, and then we
Mhm.
can do it at the next meeting. It's only a
Yeah,
week or so.
it's
Yeah.
like that.
I don't wanna
Sounds
waste
good.
time, everybody trying to resurface what exactly they're getting their heads around. If Cindy comes in and gets it hammered out with you,
Okay.
then she can come back and clearly define it. And then we
13,
can
what was the
clean it
other
up.
point, Cindy? 13 what, and which other one?
The one on 14 with the count.
Yeah, it's fine, I'll bring it up with Lisa offline, that's fine. But yeah, if there's a difference between a question and a submission, then I would need that explained myself too.
Which other one do you have though besides 13?
So we can go.
14, you had 14 point,
J, F, and K.
14 J, F, and K?
Yeah. Or at least J and
Yep.
K, sorry, J and K. She wanted clarity on point of order, point of
procedure.
information, and a question of privilege.
Okay, yep.
And I did do that.
Just point of privilege was missing. I think it was all right, just point of privilege was the fourth one that wasn't mentioned.
Lisa
There is-
has an answer.
There's
Yep,
order,
go ahead.
information,
Hold on,
privilege
we're gonna
mentioned.
go to Lisa, she's got an answer.
Through the mayor, Councillor Holiday. I know when we discussed this at GPAC, so I went and I did some research because of course it all boils down to your Roberts rules. When I looked it up, there is no such thing as point of procedure in Roberts rules. It's point of privilege and they are basically identical.
Yeah.
So when I did my research, I found one place where it actually mentioned point of procedure and it was on a law page. And they're identical. So I just deleted the point of procedure just because there is no reference in the Roberts rules.
I think what she's saying is the point of privilege isn't there.
It should be
Yeah.
point of
Point of
privilege I
privilege is
left.
different than question of privilege.
There's a question of privilege, a point of information, and a point of order.
So in the definitions, there's in our definitions, it has them listed differently.
Point of order, point of information, question of privilege.
But if you go to the definitions, it's listed differently.
So again, we're gonna get this cleaned up
Yep.
for the third
Okay.
reading at our next meeting,
Done.
and we'll get those cleaned up, simple as that.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, and just one other really quick question.
yeah,
Delegations, we're only allowed 2 people to speak. Have we ever had more? Is that an issue?
it is, Lisa has a comment. I've never had more than 2 people speak.
Sorry again through the mayor. The last meeting, we had the delegation from the Diamond Valley, whatever group,
Sustainable living.
Yeah, sustainability.
Sustainable Living. And they requested that 8 people do the presentation. 8.
Right.
And that was 8 at that point in time, and then after I did the agenda package and I explained that we had to limit it to 2, they wanted more people. They asked for even more people, so.
Let's keep it at 2.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can listen in, so if you have a group of, say, 12, 2 of them will represent that group of 12.
Yep.
And
I'm
that's
good with
a
that.
standard across most municipalities,
Yeah.
2 to 3 representatives to speak.
Go ahead, Cindy. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I definitely don't want 8. I was thinking about 3, just in case you had like a business owner coming with like his lawyer and his engineer or something like that.
I'm good with 2. It's been standard, and
You can always make an exception.
you could.
If there's a
That's a
specific
reason.
reason to have an extra person there, they can request
2
an
in the
exception.
policy.
Yeah. It's usually like the library board, for example.
They
You
could
bring
be
in
two.
one administration, one board member. Between the 2 of them, they can cover pretty much everything. And on times, we've had the finance officer for the library also attend, and she answers all the finance questions. So we have had 3 in the chair where Mary Ellen is sitting. So it's not like it's never happened.
3 people in that chair.
Not in COVID years, of
Tight
course.
fit, though.
Not in COVID years. But anyway, I think 2 is good. The precedent is keep it tight, and then we can always make the adjustment if
Yeah,
we
of
need.
course you can.
Yeah. But 8 is totally outrageous, yeah. So, okay.
Moving on.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. So we have some recommendations, Cindy. So if you can give us a motion to send that back for a little bit of refinement and bring it back to the next council.
You don't need a motion
Yeah, I'll
on
make
that.
that
What's
motion
next?
to bring back the council procedure bylaw for 3rd reading at the next meeting.
Perfect. Perfect. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you. Okay. 11.3. Establish a committee of the whole. Council committee of the whole. What's that, Mrs. Martin? A motion? What? No, you have to speak up so Cindy can hear you.
You can use your fingers too.
Do we need to pass the procedure bylaw first to allow this?
No?
Good. Good.
There's administration.
Option 1.
Thank you, Gary.
That's teamwork, Rab.
I
Administration
could say it in a
recommendation.
squeaky voice and you
Where's
could
the
pretend it.
Council
Do you wanna use
third,
my
so where's
screen?
the first reading? Okay, second reading. And here, there you are.
Yep.
Council get first reading, right there it was. This is the, right there.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. That council give first reading to bylaw number 21-1120 to amend council committee's bylaw number 19-1093 by dissolving the finance advisory committee and the governance and priorities advisory committee, and to establish a council committee of the whole effective January 1st, 2022.
Perfect, thank you. And as the maker of the motion, you can comment on that motion first, or you can pass it on and we will go down the table.
Mayor Crane, can you give us a little bit more explanation of what it is a committee of the whole?
Our lovely legislative services behind door number 1, Miss Lisa, could you please give us the perfect explanation of a committee of the whole?
I think that should be your CAO explaining that.
Sure, I could go there too.
Door number 2.
Door number 2, Mr. Patience.
Thanks,
So, in really short, broad terms, Councillor Martin,
It's a movement, yeah, that's
a committee of the whole is essentially a committee of all of council that's established to sit, to entertain literally almost anything the council needs to consider, whether it's finances, projects, budgets, ongoing issues of the day, literally anything, so it doesn't pigeonhole you into a committee. For instance, a finance committee where you have a parameter set around financial decisions. Governance priorities committees that's set around policies and bylaw development. Committee of whole really is wide open to meet for any reason that council deems fit. So it's a catch-all, and it's got a very wide embrace, and it allows you to have conversations around any subject that council A considers of interest, or B, administration believes in working with the mayor and deputy mayor that would be very lengthy for bringing to a formal council meeting. So we can have those conversations at a committee of the whole, which are also public meetings. And then no motions can be made at a committee of whole aside from recommending to council whatever they may consider necessary to recommend. So they can't pass bylaws, they can't pass policies, but they can recommend them to council. They can recommend financial statements, audited financial statements, etc. So it's really a catch-all, and we've put it forward in order to alleviate multiple committees and to allow a little flexibility in your meeting schedule.
Hazel?
Sean, can public also attend and also join in the conversation, or can they just observe?
The public can observe. I suppose it would be up to your chair and your procedural bylaws to their involvement in the committee. For instance, if it was an open house sort of an affair, then certainly they could ask questions. If it's a regular committee meeting with a formal agenda, typically they're just there to observe. I've seen it go the other way. It does get challenging when you get a number of members of the public getting deeply involved in your agenda items, and can really derail an agenda as well. So we have requirements under the Municipal Government Act for public disclosure of all of our meetings unless they're in closed session. So that's typically their way they're dealt with, but there are some exceptions that can be granted based on the premise that we're working with. We've already discussed any meeting where all of council is together, for instance, if it's a budget open house, then that's certainly a forum where the public can ask questions. A regular type of a meeting would be very much like council, where they're welcome to come under non-COVID and watch the proceedings.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, Hazel, picture a committee of the whole as a perfect chance where you can look at one item from every angle. Financial planning, strategic planning, community good versus private corporation good. You really want to put all your thoughts right on the table, and then we start beating around that idea and say, is this really something we want to go forward with? And all the pros, all the cons can be talked about in an open forum. The only thing you need to be careful of in a committee of the whole is whether you cross the line of something that could be in camera. So you really have to just be a little bit sensitive to, are we talking about something that affects personnel from the staff perspective, or the legal, or the land, or talking about a business versus another business. So it gets very open like a strategic planning session, but you have to be a little aware of how you attack some of the topics so that you don't cross those lines. So that would be where the chair would be kind of like, whoa, hold up, we're crossing the line, right? But that's really, it is an open forum for council to really strategically look at objectives from all angles and weigh it as this is what we want to do, or nah, we'll put it on the back burner. But the only caution is FOIP. So again.
So during probably your time and Councillor Waring's time, you probably have
right at the start.
And yeah. Why did you no longer continue with that?
They tended to go into long meetings where you only ended up talking about a few items. Everything was recommendations, well, like Mr. Patient said, so you didn't make any decisions. We'd finish up a 3 or 4 hour committee of the whole that we'd do in the morning. Then we'd come out and we'd open up a business meeting like this, and we'd make all the motions that we talked about. But if you wanted to, If you had something contentious in debate during the committee of the whole, you then closed that meeting, opened a business meeting, made a motion, and then you had the exact same debate
Yeah.
that you just finished having in discussion. So it seemed like a duplication in the same
Also,
day.
it was time wasting because we had 2 council meetings a month. One was a business meeting, one was a committee of the whole.
So the delay.
There could be a month between something coming to council and you make a decision. So what we decided was we get rid of the committee of the whole as a meeting, but we could always, as the mayor said, we could always break into a committee of the whole and break out again like you would and in camera. This way, we're having it as a separate meeting, so it doesn't impact it in any way your regular business meetings.
Yeah, so
And-
we'll
and
still
it
have
gives
our
us
2
a
meetings
chance
a month.
to sit around like this and do what we're doing now, which we shouldn't be doing now, is chatting.
But yeah, so it gives us much more flexibility to have massive debate and talk about everything from several angles rather than being pigeonholed into one corner of a debate. And then we just bring it to our next business meeting the same way we did with the government's priorities, but we were doing that quarterly, so it was a long delay. So this will give us a little more flexibility, especially with a new council. It's very important that you guys feel engaged and that we have a lot of opportunity to talk about different angles, different ideas, and different whys and why nots and hows and how-tos. So, yeah,
Thank you very much.
Been my problem, yeah.
right? So I think it's great. That being said, we have a motion made by Councillor Martin for first reading. Is that correct, Ms. Martin?
Yes.
All right. All in favor? Rabbi's got stuff to say.
I guess I think I had something to say.
Oh,
I
did
could
you?
wait till after make the first motion.
Well, you could
but
talk about it on second.
You will need to know that I was not at the GPAC meeting because I had another important engagement for the town. And I understand committee of the whole, but I'm not in favor of ditching our finance committee.
That's right.
That hurts, okay? It's taken a couple years to get it. And we always talk about transparency in financial decisions. I've heard some of you around this table talk about the most important decision to make are finance. I totally agree. And I appreciated the input and expertise that we had from our members at large of our finance committee. And I think this is regression. I think we're going back to where we have less transparency and less community involvement. And perhaps it's there, if I'm gonna look at the membership of the committee, it's comprised of all council, nobody else, okay? And the finance committee was comprised of a few council members and later all council and members of the public. So, I'm not in favor of this motion for that reason, and, cause I'd like to have some method of keeping the finance component of that finance committee here. And I don't see that being represented here at all.
All right.
May I?
I got Councillor Holiday first. Councillor Holiday, follow up.
Actually, I think Waring was ahead of me by a split second, so I'll listen to him.
No, go on, ladies before me.
He's good. You go.
Okay, I have obviously expressed similar sentiments to Councillor Ross, but I did have an idea that would make me feel a whole lot better, and that was to add under section 6. There's a section about committee can do a public engagements and delegations, all those kind of things. I was
Yes.
wondering if we could add another bullet point to add that the committee may also establish working groups. And I don't know if you need to specify composed of members at large, subject matter expertise staff. I'm just wondering if, I've seen in other municipalities where they use working groups for affordable housing, working groups, pedestrian safety task force would be another example of a working group. But if we establish it on this committee of the whole and they report there, I think that might work, and we could also use it for budget, working groups, if there's something specific that we want, such as better public engagement, that we can establish a working group at that time as an ad hoc thing. That's my suggestion.
All Okay, thank you for that. That falls in line with something Councillor Gordon actually mentioned, exactly along your lines, is that we have historically kind of failed in our public engagement around finance and bringing together the public. Of course, COVID has been a huge hamper for 2 years, but I like the idea of having a get together with the public to say, here's what we're looking at. What do you think? And whether or not 35 people or 2 people show up, that's up to the public how engaged they want to be. But I'm totally open to having something along those lines, utilizing the committee of the whole, where we invite the public for a 2-hour presentation twice a year as we lead into our budget discussions. That's my thought. I'm just throwing it out there to back you up, Councillor Holiday. Councillor Waring.
You're reading my mind.
I give up.
At the moment, with the Finance Committee, you've got 2 members of the public that make comment and have input. If we throw open the finance meeting to the public in general as part of a meeting of the whole, then 20 or 30 people of the public can come and sit and comment. And the whole thing about visibility and accountability and open politics is we try to engage the public and not just 2 members of the public. And that was one of the reasons why I was very happy with this decision, because more people, if interested, can be involved than just 2. End of speech.
Very nice. Councillor?
Well, I agree with you, and we tried that. I recall having a meeting in the library. We had probably 10 or so people there talking about finances. We didn't really accomplish anything. We maybe only had 2 people that were on the finance committee, but those 2 people were experts in finance, and they brought a lot more to the table than just going to chat with somebody over coffee about a little item with respect to finance. So yes, you bring a greater group involved and greater group involvement than 2, but I don't think you have the same amount of expertise, and I'm not sure you have the same amount of transparency. If you have 2 people that have expertise who go delve deep into the finances, that when you make decisions, they say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and I think that the 2 members of our finance committee have always said, we maybe don't agree totally, but they understood. But if we kind of have it doesn't work. We've tried that. It has worked in parks. In parks, we seem to be willing to listen to people and have everybody involved. The committee that we had in parks, it's a fairly successful model, but unfortunately we haven't had the same in finances, and I think it's because maybe there's not the same level of expertise in finance as there is in parks when it comes to the general public.
But the people with the expertise will get the same information they're getting now. They'll be allowed to come to the meeting, and they'll be allowed to pass on their expertise.
I kind of don't mind Cindy's idea. I could support the committee of the whole, and I could support the, if you like, abolishment of the finance committee as it was, okay? But I would like to have some way that we could keep those people in our community that hooked, and keep them involved, and keep them interested, and keep the information going to them and coming back from them.
Which is again a sub-finance committee which we're trying to get rid of.
We'll go to Cindy. Unmute. Gotta unmute.
Yeah, mine was a much broader discussion, and maybe Sean can clarify. Do we need to have it specifically in our terms of reference here that to establish working groups within, reporting back to the committee as a whole? Does it have to be laid out explicitly, or can we do that anyhow?
You can
Thank
do
you.
that at any time.
We're going to go to Miss Brown for clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the Mayor, Deputy Mayor Holiday. In your committee's bylaw, under section 5, you have the ability by resolution to establish an ad hoc committee, a working committee, a task force for the purpose of completing a specific task. So it is in this bylaw already.
Where is it?
Section Okay, you're looking at the amendment, it's in the original committee's bylaw under section 5.
Which isn't in the package.
No.
No,
Which isn't in the package.
because the package is a council procedure bylaw, or this is the committee of the whole bylaw. The other one talks about,
So you're talking about which, yeah, okay, are you talking about this bylaw, or are you talking about the committee of the whole bylaw?
no,
The
it's,
Sorry.
committee of the whole bylaw.
Committee of the whole bylaw, I don't see it here, cause I have a council committee of the whole, terms of reference, Schedule A, is that what you're referring to?
No, you're looking at the amendment to the committee's bylaw. The committee's bylaw number 1093.
Okay, I'm on 120. So where do I look then?
is it in our package? I don't believe it
It's
is.
not in the package.
No,
It's not in the package.
Okay.
But it basically it gives us the ability to create open houses, create advisory committees,
Ad
to
hoc
do everything that
committees.
we wanna do ad hoc,
So where is that though?
section 5.
Of what? Of our,
In the original committee's bylaw,
okay,
19-1093,
okay, where is that?
And I guess the question is, can we use it?
section 5.
yeah.
Yes.
And that's all you need.
Council can create a
So where do I
committee
find that?
anytime
It's
it
in our,
wants.
In
it's in our
the
big binder.
binder you sent me?
Yeah,
It's in the binder you sent me?
I think so. If not,
Section 5.
I can email this bylaw to everybody.
Please do,
So,
please do.
Do that right now.
So all we're doing with this bylaw, just so you're clear, is we're developing the structure for the committee as a whole
yeah,
and, putting forward the terms of reference for that committee. So if you read the actual bylaw 211120, that the town, the council has adopted the council committee bylaw 191003 establishing committees, as described in the terms of reference, and forming part of this bylaw. So under their authority, the MGA, the council amends the committee's bylaw by dissolving or removing the terms of reference for the FAC and GPAC and establishes a committee whole to be governed by the terms. So all we're doing is taking out terms of reference for GPAC and for the finance, replacing it with terms of reference for the committee of the whole, but the rest of the bylaw stays intact, but it is not in your package.
but you can't just say it's just establishing a new bylaw, it is ditching the finance advisory committee
Correct,
and the governance and priorities
Correct.
It's ditching those two.
correct.
It's not just establishing a new committee of the whole, it's also ditching the other two.
That's correct.
And
yes.
that's where I'm hung up on, the
So,
finance
yeah,
committee.
so what Lisa's
So
saying.
the working groups could work for me. And I know some of you council have never been in favor of, but it took 3 years before we finally got a finance committee, and here we are a year later gonna lose it, so I kinda liked it, I thought it had some good purposes.
So if I might, Mr. Mayor,
Is there?
so there were certain challenges that were created out of that we didn't discuss or haven't discussed in open public forum.
Yeah, I know.
Issues related to legal and especially human resources. And that has become a challenge in the last couple of months and actually was a challenge at your last FAC meeting.
Yes.
By our own admission and by our public members' own admission as well.
Yeah.
That's the challenge that we had with it, and we're just trying to alleviate that, so. Because those are issues, and that's the time when you wanna discuss those issues as opposed to like going in closed session for maybe 2 or 3 hours on a long-winded
Absolutely.
I do appreciate that, and I know that Crean has had a stick handle through our meetings a couple of times and kinda keep us on track. So I understand that there are concerns. I'm not saying it's a perfect model. I'm just saying, I really want transparency, I
Yes.
really want accountability, I really want public input, cause finances are big. And if we just say, let's just ditch them both, then, and have this little magic GPAC or whatever it's called, it's not gonna solve all my issues for me.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at
Excellent.
that.
Thank you. We have a motion for first reading. We've had some great debate. We've clarified a lot of points. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And all opposed? Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Okay, thank you, that is carried.
No, it's not amended.
No, nothing amended. Can I get a second reading for that tonight? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah? Councillor Dixon, you should have a motion there. You're gonna read it as second.
A motion that council gives second reading to bylaw number 21-1120 to amend council committees bylaw number 19-1093 by dissolving the Finance Advisory Committee, FAC, and Governance and Priorities Advisory Committee, GPAC or GPAC, and to establish a council committee of the whole effective January 1st, 2022.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Councillor Holiday.
Yeah, I just wanted, working principle number 6, we needed a verb in front of the public engagement, including open houses. It should read host public engagement, including open houses, in order to make it flowless.
Where is this?
She's very good.
She's a teacher's,
Where is
wife
this?
there, and she's smarter
Number
than he
6.
is. That's awesome, Cindy.
I don't see it. I can't find
It's
it.
in yellow, and it says public engagement including open houses, and Cindy's saying you should put host in front of public, and I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so as amended, friendly amendment, Councillor Dixon?
Yep, as amended.
Okay, that's accepted.
So, clearly I may not be in favor of a third reading tonight. You have to get unanimous.
No, we're good on
But
two.
I would be willing to look at the bylaw that Lisa's gonna send us, and maybe we could make some changes and have some provisions for in getting finance.
We'll take it to the 15th.
Yes, as per Cindy's comment about working groups, I like that idea. I think it could work,
You're good.
and it could deal with my issue and hopefully cover your bases as well.
Okay, perfect. So, motion on the floor. Any comments on the motion? Motion in the ocean says, all in favor. Excellent, that is carried. So that's 2 readings. That's good for tonight. As Councillor Rabb said, he'd like to do a little homework and just make himself absolutely comfortable for the 3rd reading, which we'll bring back at a future council meeting. 15th is fine.
Yep.
Small debate, and we'll move ahead. Okay,
Yep.
excellent. Thank you, administration, for all the work you did on that. And I know it's a lot of patience involved, Mr. Patience. See how I did that?
Oh, you're very good.
I'm word wizard. Word wizard.
Richard Dawson got nothing on you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're moving on to old business. 12.1, council to consider requesting to appoint a public member at large to the Dare Works Foothills Society. Okay,
I thought we discussed that.
You did.
we just need to bring it here and make a motion.
Oh, actually, if I might.
Oh, absolutely, go ahead.
I was tasked with getting clarity as to whether this was a member of council
Yes.
or a member of the public.
That's right, and what was the final say?
Either a council member or a member of the public would be great.
So,
And thanks, Nick, for actually digging into that for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
how about, I'm just gonna throw it out here, how about we just put out a motion for a member at large and we post it to our signboard and see if anyone in the public is willing to step up and we can appoint them.
I second that motion.
There you go. That's, see, do I have a 4th?
You're gonna need
That's a
7.
4,
Make
5.
sure Lisa's got.
4th is passed, dude.
Excellent. A motion, it was made by me, seconded, and any discussion?
Not at all.
All in favor? Perfect. Clean, quick and easy. We'll put it on the signboard and see if the public is willing to help. I think it's a great cause and I hope we can make some headway for the youth. 12.2, notice of motion, diverse housing strategy, Councillor Gordon.
It's a notice, not a discussion.
No, it is, because we brought the notice already, so tonight it was to be a notice, or it was supposed to be a discussion, based on the resolution that I have there, therefore be it resolved. So, John, I'm just gonna let John be tonight, Councillor Waring. Yeah, this is something that really I wanna focus on. In fact, if I can speak to this and why I wanna have this discussion tonight and bring a resolution forward, is that in 2017-2018, part of our strategic priority, each of us have that document in front of us, the bottom right-hand corner, be a destination community, The third bullet talks about developing and growing the community and infrastructure to create an active quality lifestyle by, and letter C says initiating an affordable seniors housing initiative by 2021. So it has been part of our strategy, it's been part of our priorities. We've been putting it on the back burner, and I don't want to just focus on the affordable housing perspective. I think it's time that we looked at a diverse housing strategy. I've talked with realtors in the area, and there's certain gaps in our housing market. I've talked with developers in our area. One developer I recently spoke to is involved in a build-to-rent scheme in a municipality up north, working with the town in a cooperative, in a partnership, which fully aligns with the provincial mandate to seek partnerships. And I'm wondering if that's something we consider. So I really want to bring forward, perhaps it belongs in the committee of the whole, where we can discuss this. I'm not looking for a knee-jerk reaction that we find this solution and boom, throw money at it. I really want to direct administration here based on the resolution that we get involved in a public engagement to what are the needs and desires of our community. What are the stakeholders telling us? What are the investors, the developers, the realtors? I spoke to a realtor recently, and the fact that we have such limited availability of properties for sale right now is not good for our community. It's not good for economic development. It's not good for people coming in looking to work here. Where are they going to live, right? We'll have to obviously do the review of the MDP, so that's a big picture item. That's why I say it's a strategy that we need to develop, not just a once-off. And obviously we'll need to get our partners involved in that, in Black Diamond, looking ahead to amalgamation, really putting this and thinking outside the box. You know, I'm not a fan of just throwing money at something and saying, well, there's grant money, there's subsidized grant money that you can avail of based on income. That's such a fluid, affordable, the use of affordability, I'm hesitant to use that, because what's affordable? You know, we lower and provide X dollars for this when we may not have opportunities for people to live or to work here, and so they have to commute to Calgary. Well, is that affordable at $1.45 a liter? Not necessarily, right? So I really want us to think deeper on this. Is there red tape in our land use bylaw? Talked to a realtor recently, and they were super impressed that we were progressive in our land use bylaw amendments, specifically the idea of having, she termed it as carriage houses, we call it garden suites, but they are the same thing. And the realtor was super impressed with that, about the opportunity to infill, meet some of the needs in the community. So what kind of a strategy can we implement that encourages our landowners who have large enough property to put these garden suites on, so that then we can start having some rental properties in our community where they're at. One of the things I love about our garden suites, the infill, is it doesn't really expand our footprint, so our service levels can be remaining where they're at with the hands-on deck that we have. And then of course looking at collaborating with our regional partnerships, not just Black Diamond, but also the Foothills County, and working together. So does it belong around a discussion like we can have tonight? It's probably much more detailed, so having a committee of the whole. But my goal is really to see a strategy, a fulsome strategy that looks at the broad spectrum, that helps our seniors who want to age in place. They might not need, quote unquote, something that's affordable, but they want something that's, you know, I've talked with several seniors, they're living in a bungalow, 1,250 square foot bungalow, and they would love to have property less than 700 square feet on one level. So that's what I'm looking at, seniors to age in place. Not every senior, eh, John? But seniors.
I got 14, 50 on mine.
There you go. Seniors aging in place, but also giving opportunities to our younger generation with the current mortgage requirements. You know, they have to have, what, 20% down?
Very difficult.
That's super difficult. So what opportunities do we have? And then helping as well those in our community who are less fortunate. Can we help them with some kind of an affordable housing scheme? And that's where the build to rent comes from. So I'd really like to hear from the rest of council what you think of this opportunity to really hit one of our strategic priorities in really looking at how we can support those looking to come to our community. Because right now, 13 houses are for sale in Turner Valley, 3 in Black Diamond. So basically, when our realtors wanna bring somebody out here, there's nothing to show. So it's really hindering our growth.
Councillor Waring, thoughts, comments?
House sold today in 7 hours.
7 hours.
Exactly.
I agree we need to have a strategy, I agree we need to talk about this, but I think the best thing we could do as a council at the moment is direct administration to organise a workshop.
Sounds good to me.
I would make that motion, but I know you want to, so I'm not going to.
No, I wanna hear it because, you know, if I can speak to that, you know, I did look at our committee package and creating these workshops. I think we have some key stakeholders in the community that we can link together to be part of that workshop and hear from them what they would like to see. I'm intrigued by speaking with this developer recently that up north is working with the town in a joint partnership. The town had some extra land that wasn't being used. And this is why I asked the question earlier about the sales of our land. Has there been any movement on those? If not, could we partner with the developer to somehow have a joint partnership agreement? We don't become the landlord, but we have a joint partnership in place where that land
PPP.
is made available to that developer to put certain types of dwellings on that property. And that's why I asked about that one strange property on Anderson. In our R1, if you remember, we have a comprehensive area dwelling plan on there that does not have a minimal habitational square footage. So all of these things can work together. So I like the idea of a workshop.
Okay, Councillor Dixon.
I'm just gonna say that I certainly support where you're coming from on this, but I would like to say, I think we need to, put a little bit more priority on solidifying the MDP, before we move forward with this. We're already dealing with a potential, public, outcry, if you will, over some wording on the MDP, and to move forward on something like this, and to say, you know, elimination of red tape, so on and so forth. I think that we need to focus on the MDP before we move on any further with this. I do agree with what you're saying and where you're going with this, but I think that there's something that needs to be looked at before we look
Yeah,
at this.
if I may, Councillor Dixon, they go hand in hand.
I agree.
Then that's why I have it, there's a third one, the review of the MDP. As we're reviewing the MDP, if we don't have the thought of a diverse housing strategy, we'll be exactly where we are today. So they have to coincide.
Agreed.
So I totally understand where you're coming from. The NDP, you know, speaking to your concerns there about the MDP, it does say in legislative document that it should present for future councils how development should happen. It's not written in stone. But an MDP review with a diverse housing strategy then takes a look at the overall picture and benefits the community as a whole. So I'd like to see them coincide.
And that I can agree.
Yeah.
But are we going to do that with amalgamation coming in?
And that's why it's a strategy, right, with a workshop.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gordon, for bringing this up. I think there's a lot of value in this. I would like to know, first of all, like the public engagement, would that just be the workshop? Are you gonna go to West Winds, get a little bit of,
Yeah,
get
there's
some more, and
stakeholders.
then,
Yeah.
and is there some
Yeah,
federal?
Barry, we're not going to get through all this.
No, we're not.
Okay,
No,
And-
with respect, I apologise for interrupting, but, I mean, you carry on by all means, but
no,
we got a
just
lot
one last
left.
comment. Many a times I've heard is that we have seniors that their home is getting to be too much for them. They want to live in Turner Valley.
Yeah.
They don't want to move to a neighboring community.
Exactly.
They want to stay here.
And if I may, to Hazel's point real quick here, if you look at the Stronger Foundations, the Alberta provincial government, their 10-year strategy plan, that's what they're looking for is partnerships. So I really want to engage West Winds and get that partnership and see what they need, and if we can help support what they need, absolutely. And that's why I say
They're also a federal agency.
there is a federal agency, and unfortunately, I just shared with council yesterday, I believe it was, an article that showed that the federal government has spent less than half of their budgeted money to support affordable housing. So the money's just not, it's there, it's already been designated, but they're not divvying it out. And I wonder if that's because municipalities don't have a creative, diverse housing strategy. So that's what this is all about, getting the ball rolling, putting it in place, and if we can start getting some grant funding requests federally, let's get after it.
We'll take your motion to set up a workshop.
So, should we first, like, I'm gonna ask admin on this one, some direction from our CAO. What's the best manner in which to proceed to make sure we have this fulsome strategy? Is it through the committee of the whole? Is it
Yes.
setting up a workshop initially?
Strategic planning.
I'm going to suggest that you wanna start with a committee of the whole, so you've got time to have this conversation and determine the direction that you wanna go, and of course, amalgamation is going to be a consideration, cause
Yep.
Yeah.
any affordable housing strategy is gonna require multi-year, initiation. So, we'll want to have it, but it's a good conversation and certainly worthy of having, and some of the ideas that you broached, I think, are excellent, so. I think we broach it around the committee of the whole table, perhaps late January, early February. Move forward with, trying to gather some public input on that process, maybe even combine it with some open house for budget so that we can generate some additional interest.
So, I'll make that motion that we, have it for discussion at a committee of the whole
Perfect.
in February of 2022.
So you change your motion,
Not in January?
you're changing your motion then?
Second one.
You gonna refer to the GPAC
For that.
or the committee of the whole probably?
That's what he's doing.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
You can call
You like
it
that?
whenever
Yeah.
need
and we
to
can
go.
really
I don't
have,
mind your other motion, but I think it's better.
We'll go
We
February.
need more discussion.
well, that's why I
Okay.
asked Sean,
We
right?
can have
So,
time to talk
huge-
with.
it's a
get
massive
some
discussion.
Yeah,
input.
for sure, for sure.
Okay, motion is for committee to whole, for this to be a topic of discussion, for February. All in favor? That is carried, thank you.
So, just a quick point of,
Sure,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
sure, privilege questions. So, the committee, the whole terms of reference and the procedural bylaw suggest January, March.
Oh,
May.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanna point out, it's no different than a council meeting. You'd also call a special one as required, right?
Yep.
So why February wouldn't be a regular committee, the whole meeting? We could certainly have one in February, that does give some time, and January would be probably a real push for that
crunch.
anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay,
12.3, Foothills Lions Club request, we've already dealt with and completed. New business, third quarter financial statement, September 30 to year to date. 13.1.
appreciate that.
Let it be known, we only have 12 minutes before we're gonna have to extend this meeting, so if there's no burning questions, let's go. Rap?
The council approved the third quarter financial statement to September 30th, 2021, year to date as presented.
I have a lot of questions.
No, he doesn't.
Cindy? Cindy says thumbs up.
Yeah, because we looked at it already.
All right.
Already, yeah.
Seeing no further questions, comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. Request for decision for Strategic Transportation Infrastructure Program, the STIP grant application for Seclusion Valley Culvert upgrades.
We discussed this, so I'll give us this motion here that council approves the STIP grant application for conventional lining of both culverts with an estimated construction cost of $470,000.
All right.
And, if I may,
Yes, please.
Mr., if I may ask, I fully support this motion. I love getting some grant money. I know it's still taxpayer money, but it is what it is. If I may, through the chair, ask administration to detail the percentage that we're looking at, how much of the overall project the grant supports? 75%, so that 25% will be on our docket, and I believe we reviewed that briefly on our capital project, so I think that's been considered and will come forward to our capital.
And I do have Mr. Beltran here if you have any specific questions, but.
I do. I know we're tight for time, so I
Councilor
just had a real
Abco.
quick question. When I look at those culverts, like we talked about the fact they may have been installed improperly, so instead of being round, they're oval.
Yes.
So when we put the liners in, what percent are we gonna lose, like in terms of volume? Are we gonna have a lot more restricted flow, in other words? Or is the
Yes.
liner gonna follow the oval as well?
No.
So we're gonna lose considerable amount. Are we still gonna have enough for a flood situation, do you think?
We will, but there will be some surcharge. The water will go above the height of the culvert.
Yes, okay, gotcha.
If it's
Yeah,
really
like
big.
that's only
It's
in
gotta be
rare-
big.
Yeah, that's only rare circumstance, but you gotta address it, otherwise if you put too small culverts in, then you're still gonna have a problem. But you're saying it might rise up to the level of the road, but it's still gonna work. I'm good with that, that's a good enough answer for me.
Okay, and my only question was gonna be, if we go ahead with this, I wanted to know what's our guarantees from a contractor point of view, from
Yeah.
a warranty perspective, and I believe that that information is not yet gleaned, but you're gonna bring that back to us?
I will.
Okay, so that was one of the big ones for
Good
me
question,
is,
yeah.
but, Richard mentioned that Alberta Transportation signs off on this grant money, is that right?
They do.
And they have stipulations
On their foot.
on their end that says if we're gonna give you money, it better be
Better be
up
good.
to snuff. So he's gonna come back with
Okay.
some
Super.
details. Gordon?
So the question, I do have a question already with that. The degradation on, is it the north side where the cement blocks are coming down, cause it looks like the ground is shifting or sliding? What are our engineers saying about that?
Well, at the time, we were just keep it as it is until council could make a decision as to what to do.
So that's not part of this initial?
No, that was the initial administration's attempt to repair a damaged portion of the culvert.
Okay,
We deemed that it would be too expensive to proceed further, so we stopped.
yeah. So that cost hasn't been figured in, should there be a remediation work that we wanna do on that bank?
No, it has been, that's included, the whole price includes everything, to remove those blocks and
Fix it.
reestablish the slope.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect.
Either way, I think we need to move with this motion, this needs to be done, you look at the pictures, it definitely needs to be done, ASAP or earlier.
All right, any further concerns around this motion? Ounce of prevention is a pound of cure is all I would say on this one. And I'm all about an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure. And all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you.
Seclusion Valley,
That
that's a
was-
subdivision that keeps on giving.
That's the one done. Chris and Tina Lisak letter, proposed brewery. We have had that same letter, I
3 times
believe,
already.
read out today.
The reason it's on your agenda is it arrived actually before we advertised for public hearing,
That's right.
so that's why it's not.
So I'll get a motion to accept that for information anyway.
Do you
Just
want
keep
all the
it clean.
correspondence?
Thank you, Waring. All in favor? Perfect, that's carried. 14-1 is done. Correspondence considered Marigold Library System letter. Election congratulations introduction request for support of Marigold Library Systems. Miss Martin, did you by chance have a little read through that one? And would you like to maybe give us some action considered?
that I'm sitting on. I'm going to be taking, I'm going to be the new counselor for the Sheep River Library. Looking very forward to it. And my first meeting is on Thursday, and Mayor Crane is gonna hand me over his binder.
Nice.
Absolutely, simple as that.
So accept this as information.
Yeah.
Okay, get a motion from Councillor Martin to accept for information. Any comments? Rab, all in favor?
I'm just getting ready to vote.
Pam, I know you're on
It's
it.
almost time.
All right, and general correspondence, minutes. So we have, I'm just gonna list them out here. Parks and Paths, we have Sheep River Library, we have intermunicipal economic development, we have intermunicipal economic development from September, we have FCSS from September 23rd, we have the IEDC as well for October 14th, and we have the Sheep River from the 14th, kind of duplicated there. Anybody have any questions on any of those particulars?
Totally
Gary
useless.
Rab.
I don't have any questions, well, I kinda do. I was disappointed to see 16.3, 16.4, not quorum, inadequate quorum for your
IEDC.
IEDC, and that's kinda concerning to me.
Mm-hmm.
16.6, I saw there was a quorum, but whenever you see there's a lack of a quorum, that's concerns me, what's happening with the meetings or what's happening, so that's something maybe we hate to be abreast or stay on top of anyway.
If I may,
Yeah.
in reply to Councillor Rob, this is a concern as well of the committee. And so we're having a meeting this Thursday.
Good.
And one of the discussion points that the members at large has brought forward is the need to really focus on our strategic priorities and have a reset to make sure that we're meeting our strategic priorities. The members at large have asked for that.
Good.
Because they've been concerned with the the stalling, I guess is the best way to put it, the lack of action.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so thanks for bringing that up. It's fair point.
Yeah, motion to accept all the minutes.
Thank you, I'll accept that motion. Comment, Councillor Martin.
Just a quick comment, during my campaign, I was looking for information on the IEDC and I had to contact, Councillor Gordon on that. I'm wondering if we could have those minutes, put onto the webpage, like there is like for the comment, you know, the committees. And, like the parks, there isn't any under there. They're always attached to the agenda, but they're not attached to that committee page. It's just a, just a suggestion.
No, that's a great point, because if you're a member of the public and you're looking for something, our strategic direction at the start of last term was we want 2 clicks to the finish. From Turner Valley's homepage, we wanted you to be able to get your answer within 2 clicks. And I see exactly what you're saying. If you don't know where to go, it's chaos, right? And then you get frustrated. It's like me trying to play WCB today. 5 times they said I didn't have money on my credit card. Oh, well, I told that electronic voice, I'll tell you. I still owe them, by the way. But anyway, we have a motion here to accept all correspondence. Opportunity for council to comment on any of the minutes. Comments have been made and received. All in favor? Excellent, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a long meeting. And I thank you all for tolerating me as chair. And
Did we have a choice?
no, you didn't.
Questions, I was gonna ask Richard before I
Thank you.
get away.
We're adjourned.
Sean,
You can turn her off, Lisa.
question, I meant to ask Richard before I see you took off on this, and that's fair. That picture of those 2 culverts,